Familiar story for the Buffalo Bills as they fall to the Kansas City Chiefs in the AFC Championship. This marks now the fourth time in 5 years the Chiefs have ended the Bills season. And next up for the team is locker cleanout day. Earlier this afternoon, quarterback Josh Allen had this to say on the 2024 Bills.
I think this is one of the more special units I've ever been around in my entire life, from Pop Warner through high school, through college, in the NFL. Guys truly cared about each other.
And all audio from today will be available at our website, WGR550.com, and we will get more on today's locker cleanout and the loss last night when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5 p.m. We are just now under 2 weeks away from Super Bowl 59. It will be the Chiefs and Eagles. They're going to square off in New Orleans. At stake for Kansas City, it's an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl title on the line, and it would make their fifth in team history, while the Eagles, this would be their second in team history, the first since 2017. Some other coaching news in the NFL. Ravens are finalizing an extension for offensive coordinator Todd Monken, and the Bears are hiring Declan Doyle to be their OC, while former Saints head coach Dennis Allen will be the team's defensive coordinator. And then the Sabres, they're in action tomorrow when they host Boston. But today, the team has placed forward Nicholas Abbe-Cabell on waivers. Abbe-Cabell has played in just 19 games this season and has just 2 points on the season. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp and the Bulldog.
Back to pass, they blitz Allen, and he's in trouble. He throws it down the field, and it's dropped. It's dropped. Dalton Kincaid had a chance to catch it, and he couldn't get to the football. That will do it. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to make history as Cole Bishop makes the tackle, but they'll be able to run out the remaining clock here. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to become the first back-to-back Super Bowl champion to go back to a third straight Super Bowl to try to win an unprecedented third Super Bowl title.
It's Mike Schopp.
So proud of the guys. They battled. They gave it everything they had. Came up a little bit short tonight against a really good football team. It wasn't short for effort at all. These guys love each other. They played for each other. They played for the city of Buffalo, which I'm extremely proud of.
And the Bulldog.
They've ended a lot of team seasons, too. And it's a good squad. They had a good plan tonight, and again, they made more play than we did. I got so much pride in our guys showing up each and every day, working as hard as they can. Guys truly adopted what we talked about this year going into it. Love these guys.
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Football Monday, I think.
One more go-around.
Is it? Is brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com. I, like everybody, have been thinking about last night all day, and I'm not sure where to start. I'm just sort of, if you don't mind, maybe selfishly, I keep coming back to thinking about how we have another year of talking. Is it obvious right now what needs to change? I don't think it is. They were too good. And you can't switch conferences, like a lot of what relative term, a lot of what worried me about them, can they win a championship, did show up yesterday in a 3-point loss at Kansas City. Just like they did not turn the ball over. So they were kind of lucky in that way. They fumbled 4 times. But not having a guy to lean on, for Allen to lean on when the game is on the line. I never liked that about their setup this year, but they kept winning.
Right.
And James Cook kept scoring touchdowns.
Not just winning, they won comfortably a lot. Right? They weren't just getting by. They weren't just getting lucky. They were smoking people. The
highest scoring team in team history.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I don't think it's obvious either. I mean, I think, I have, I have no thoughts and every thought all at once. I'm thinking about last April and the draft trade and Xavier Worthy. It's not my favorite place to start. So maybe I shouldn't have said that first, but. he was the most explosive player in the game. Outside of Mahomes, I guess. Mahomes ran for 2 touchdowns in the game. James Cook was electric. But as far as, like, receiving threats go, Worthy was it. And that's a guy, you know, the Bills willfully decided to pass on. And the guy they got instead, you know, had one ball thrown his way that was completely errant. So I'm thinking about that. I'm thinking about the Chiefs calling them to make that trade and Bean taking the call. And, like, I'm not here to tell you that's why they lost the game, but.
See, that's example of the dilemma for me today, too, is I would make the point all season. Look at the season the Bills are having. Isn't it nice to not have to obsess about Xavier Worthy and Stephon Diggs?
Yeah, that felt good last week.
And now today it's, well, maybe would have been a better team with Xavier Worthy, and maybe they would have been a better team with Diggs. But that's probably, you know, heresy. Not having, though, it didn't happen with Coleman. It didn't happen with Cooper. It didn't happen with Kincaid.
I think what I mostly am thinking about is something I said last week about the Chiefs, and I think it came up again last night on postgame, that if they win this game, and I think even whether they win or lose the Super Bowl, I don't think it really matters. I think to us, the Chiefs going into next year are going to feel inevitable. Right now it feels that way. I said that last week. I wasn't just saying it for effect entirely. I mean, you know, we are on the radio. I'm trying to say something memorable occasionally. But it's just going to be so hard to avoid feeling like it's like a micro version of how conversations often ended when Ralph Wilson still owned the team toward the end of his ownership. And we'd be in here sort of, it could be on a day like today when the season ended. Usually it was in, you know, late December or early January. The season wasn't as long back then. There were no playoffs during any of those years. And, you know, we'd be talking it through, and you got to do this. What kind of coach? What GM? We got to find a quarterback. We got to do this. And someone, 10 minutes into the conversation, 4 hours into the conversation, will say, nothing's going to change until the owner changes. Nothing's going to change. And this isn't an ownership problem with the Bills, unless you want to consider the Chiefs the owners of the Bills. Like, they're there now, and they continue to be there, and it will be very hard, I think, for a lot of fans to not have a yeah but hanging over every idea about how to make the Bills better. Because you're going to end up at, yeah, but the Chiefs. You know, and we won't get an answer to that until probably a year from yesterday or thereabouts. You know, somewhere in mid-January, maybe we'll find out if the Bills can get past them finally in a playoff game. But between now and then, it's going to be very hard to speak it into existence, I think, because I keep coming back to 2 years in a row, I'm down by 3 to that team, and I've got my dude, and I've got the ball, and I'm, you know, last year I was closer to their goal line than I ever got last night, but still, same deal. Time on the clock, timeouts at your disposal. It's right there. Just go do it. And 2 years in a row, for, you know, a variety of reasons. The quarterback couldn't make the throws. The play caller couldn't call the right plays. They didn't recognize a blitz look or whatever it is. They just couldn't come. Dalton Kincaid couldn't make a fantastic catch on a prayer that would have been one of the most incredible plays in Bills history. Closely followed by the James Cook touchdown that tied the game. But that also gets going to, well, nice try. Good effort. Thanks for coming. Have an ice cream. It's just to be staring at that scenario 2 years in a row against that team. It's just very hard to feel like if you were in those shoes, 3-point lead inside the 2-minute warning, and Mahomes has the ball at your 30 or at midfield, you're dead. You're going to feel like
you'd feel dead.
You'd feel dead. You don't have to be. Somebody could make a play, whatever.
That's happened in the regular season meetings.
Right. But it just does not happen here, and it just feels that's a heavy weight to get off of your back. I don't know how much the players themselves are feeling it, but I'm feeling it today.
Well, that's right. I mean, it's a small thing, but it ultimately determines who wins and loses in these games. And the execution by the Bills on that drive last night and, ultimately on that drive last year where they missed the field goal and lost the game, it just was not at the necessary level. And you can talk all the time about how good your opponent is, but it's no consolation. That's what you were born into here. Is an era where you got to beat that guy. And I think specifically, like, the Chiefs' defense in those moments confused the Bills. And again, it's something that as I say this, I think of like, yup, but it just seems like the team was so good, the season was so good that it's almost selling them short to have assumed that they wouldn't meet the Kansas City level of execution. But what did we say all year about the value of the 1 seed? Not only is it rest for your bumps and bruises, not only is it home field, but which team in the league is the scariest when they get time in the lab? And the Chiefs had 2 weeks in the lab where the Bills were playing Denver.
And they came out with a great plan on offense.
And on offense, and right there at the end of the game, Jeff Schwartz on that, it's 5 minutes, it's must-see. Like, the line didn't know what it was looking at. And maybe Allen didn't know what he was looking at. And, why is this extra blitzer on the side of the field where the Bills only have 1 receiver and they have 4 on the other side? Shouldn't that have been a red flag? Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
And that play ends it all. I mean, the game is over. Once they get their 2 first downs, the game is over.
And on a play where 2 guys, if not 3, if you want to count Karlaftis, who eventually gets around the end there because Allen drifted back into it. Like Brown pushed him, guided him past the pocket, but then Allen sort of swung back into it. Anyway, 2 guys come in on Allen, and 2 of your guards blocked exactly nobody on the play. They were so confused. Edwards comes trotting in late as Allen is just about to throw the ball, I think, and Torrance sort of goes to get the guy on his left, and that guy swings towards McGovern, the center, and just to Torrance's right, here comes a guy, like, untouched, and so Torrance is sort of left there just going like, and wow. Your season is on the line. You've got 2 of your linemen, 2 of your 5 people in charge of protecting the quarterback, helping him make a play to save your season in that moment, and they effectively did nothing. They blocked air. I mean, that is tough. That is a big win for the defensive coordinator of the Chiefs and their execution. The players, on the spot did the job.
And that's happened other times. And what's also happened other times is that the Bills against Patrick Mahomes in the playoffs have no answer. There is no surprise corner blitz that works and matters. They have not made those plays. I know a lot of fans are going to want to have the same conversation about McDermott. I can't stop you. I mean, I will just say here that I just can't believe the Bills would consider making that change again after the season they just had. And there really is no, but he kicked it on this play from this game or this postseason that suffices. Like, when in that kind of area, if you will, I think he had a really good year and not a bad moment here in the play. There was no Damar Hamlin fake punt play in this loss, but the name of the game is defense for him. And again, they could not stop the Chiefs. The Chiefs had the 1 turnover. They're walking into another score probably before that play. And they do get, the Bills did have the ball twice in the 4th quarter with the lead.
Right.
They got the 1 3 and out, and then got the ball back, and then you have what? You have the Allen sneak that gets stopped, and if I have the order right, it's not like the defense just never made a play. But
right.
the little things, like Kansas City there, you have Josh Allen, and they had the answer against that guy in that offense.
Yeah, and not only like the blitz configuration and coverage and stuff, they found a way to do something that for, is it 3 years? How long is the sneak? The brotherly shove, the tush, whatever you want to call it. Is it 3 years of that now? It goes back to Philly's first Super Bowl against KC, right? the Chiefs yesterday found at least something against the Bills. I heard McGovern after we were done yesterday in locker room audio before Nate Geary took over with the overtime show. Or McGovern talking about it. Yeah, what they did is they got really low and took away our feet. And therefore we could never really get the second push, right? Like the second act of that play is often where they get the yards they need. It's, Allen is going to take the snap and just hop to his left a little bit, and then here comes the surge, and then it's a push. And the way McGovern was talking, like the Chiefs got low enough, took their feet away, and they couldn't push. And what a concept. We'll see if it works against Philadelphia. But I mean, credit.
No one gets lower than Hurts.
Credit to them for that. I mean, that play has been unstoppable in football by both the Eagles and the Bills. The quarterbacks have a lot to do with that, but credit to them. They came up with a thing.
And there's another example of where at the same time I understand the Bills, but I also want something else. And like a lot of these other ones already, I feel like I'm asking for a lot. But I've said forever that's their best play. It doesn't have to be a sneak, but Allen with the ball, taking off, the more of that, the better. This is the playoffs. The more of that, the better. But it sort of felt like it became only the sneak. That was.
Yep.
There's no play action potential there. There's no end around potential. No jet sweep. I mean, shouldn't there have been so easy in retrospect? But shouldn't there have been a pretty good shot opportunity when the other team is so convinced that you're going to go short yardage and then they end up being right? And that is a microcosm of the overall for me with the Bills is there just was ultimately, I would say, not enough danger to their offense. Were willing to take those shots. They were willing to run with Cook all year. They were willing to run with Allen. And so is that being duplicitous? Because I want that from Allen. I want them to appreciate the value he provides as a runner, and they clearly do. But we always do this with football when you lose. You should have done the other thing.
They didn't have a pivot from a play that was money all year long when it was pretty apparent. By the second or third time they tried it last night, they were having trouble. They didn't always get stuffed, but it just was not as easy as it usually is. I mean, yes, I think maybe Dalton Kincaid got the first down on the third down play before the fourth down play with what we believe to be the bad mark. I think the mark was maybe just as bad on third down, but they still had to go for it there and try to make a play, and all year long that you're not even worried about it because you're going to get 3 yards by the time that thing is over with the way that play often goes. But last night, I don't know how everybody else felt. I was really nervous about the play because Kansas City had seemed to found a cheat code or something, a way to stop it. I don't mean cheat code like they're cheating, but although I did hear something about Chris Jones being in the neutral zone on all those plays. Anyway, they just didn't have a pivot off it, right? If the Chiefs used that play, if Mahomes were 2 inches bigger and 20 pounds heavier, and he's Allen, and that's their bread and butter, but somehow their opponent, in this case the Bills, find a way to sort of undo it, make it less than the automatic it's been for you. Don't you think somebody who looks like he'd be coming along in motion to help push takes a handoff or a direct snap, Kelsey, something like, couldn't I do that with someone? Mac Hollins, even? Like, I know the specter of some sort of a pitch that looks like a gadget play to Mac Hollins on a 4th and 1 with your season on the line.
Never heard the end of it.
It's like a gas can exploding on your lawn during dry season if it goes wrong. But that's you got to have an answer.
Well, that's what makes this so difficult is trying to figure out, or for me, I think for you, is how fair that is. It's always you should have done something different. Right. Did we want a trick play instead? Did you want a pass instead? Because way more often we would hear about how dumb that idea is than, the sneak not working. The sneak not working is like, were the officials wrong? Was he injured? He said he was injured.
Yeah, he hurt his right wrist, he says. Yeah.
So here we go. I mean, it's day one of what do they do about it? what do they do to the roster, changes and all that. And I kind of doubt right now at this early stage they're going to be excited about the idea of adding another weapon, having their first pick of the last two drafts be Kincaid and Coleman, and still in the playoffs being unable to stop Kansas City's offense at all. I would guess we're going to go back to investing on the defense in one way or another. I mean, there was some breaking down of the defense physically, losing Rapp, and then Benford, concussion. Oh, he's playing, concussion. And who knows who else? I mean, there's always other guys who were injured. Milano wasn't 100%.
Right. Well, that's where I think, last night, it's a little early, and I don't know when it stops being early. I guess we'll all just collectively decide. But so I want to talk about Bean's high picks and the misses. And, I think you rightly said back, you're picking out, yes, those hurt, but they've also hit on all these other guys that weren't first-round picks, and those guys are important to the team. But where you're really in trouble here is, to me, the assets you did pour into the defensive line, defensive end. Russo had a terrible game. I think they'll re-sign him and keep him. He's been good, but he got stuck inside numerous times, half a dozen times. The quarterback runs, well, at least one of them. I think the other one, he might have been on the other side of the formation. Anyway, he had a very tough day. Elam is that's got to be over. And if you want to really go under the hood on Rasul Douglas and his performance, I'm not here to tell you definitely shouldn't re-sign him, but he was on the scene of a lot of plays down the stretch here that got made against them. And so do I have a plug-and-play replacement for him? No. Okay, now what? Do I have to draft that guy like I did when I drafted Elam and eventually Benford? Benford ended up being a star. Elam can barely get on the field and shouldn't get on the field, it looks like.
That's my guess right now is
so now,
first pick. So
now what do I do there? And meanwhile, my receiving core is going to be what? Cooper's a free agent. Hollins is a free agent.
Hollins comes back. Cooper walks. Everybody eats.
Yeah.
803-0550. Here's Lucas. Hi, Lucas.
Hey, Schopp, the Bulldog. How you guys doing?
Okay, Lucas. Thank you.
Yeah, I'm driving back from KC right now. It's I'm a lifelong listener to you guys. Really appreciate your content year in and year out. I just wanted to make a couple points on the defense. I feel like the media and greater Bills Mafia, we kind of focus on Josh Allen, the offense, getting him weapons. And honestly, he's proven he can do a lot with a little or a lot with a different cast year in and year out. The first 3 or 4 years under McDermott, we were a top 3 defense. And for a defensive-minded guy, I mean, we've really kind of slipped into mediocrity. The Chiefs, mediocre defense or offense, average 22 points a game. I mean, we got to stop assuming it's going to be a shootout every time we play the Chiefs. I think the Bills really need to invest in the defense going forward, and I'm optimistic as usual that Josh Allen and the team next year will continue to get us, close to a Super Bowl and hopefully move the needle next year. And just want to thank you guys a lot.
Okay.
It's kind of tough coming back from KC, but thanks again.
Yep, thanks.
Appreciate that. Safe travels.
I mean, the last 5 years, starting with this year, in points allowed, 3rd, 4th, 1st, 1st, 5th. You can invest in the defense because it's time. It's their turn. And you do have holes and age, and it's not a bad idea. But are you ever stopping them anyway, right? I mean, we've been through a lot of players here, Hyde and Poyer and Jerry Hughes and Von Miller and all the different stars they've had, Trey White, and it has not mattered. It has not won them this matchup, and that sadly continues. Lines are open for your calls throughout the day. Eric Wood at 4, Sal Capaccio at 5. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
It's all Bills all day. Buffalo Bills.
this afternoon as the Bills packed up for the offseason on James Cook and all of that. I co-sign. Great season. Fantastic play on that touchdown. Ends up 16 rushing touchdowns in the regular season to tie a team record, over 1,000 yards, despite not playing that much of a majority of the snaps this year. At the end of the game last night, he's not on the field. Was he hurt? It did look to us watching together earlier in the game that he had, I thought, maybe a problem with his hand or wrist, but I didn't hear anything else about that. And why else would he have not been on the field at the end?
Because Ty Johnson is the back that's on the field when they're in those situations, I think, mostly. I never thought he was hurt. You did. I didn't feel like fighting with you, but
You didn't see it.
I thought. Well, I know I saw him do what you thought. I saw it. I thought he was. I thought he was adjusting himself.
Oh, okay.
When he. So, but
not that fine a line between the two.
Right.
Really.
I guess maybe not. No.
One of us is wrong.
Right.
But it's Johnson. The first play of that drive is a Ty Johnson run for -1.
Right.
They do get a first down.
They got bailed out. Allen ran for like 13 or 12 or 13 yards right after that. Yeah.
Let's go to Richard. Hi, Richard. Richard?
Hello.
Hi.
Hello. Yes. How are you?
Good. Thank you.
You guys always do a great job. It's one of the highlights of every single day of my life when I listen to you.
Wow. Thank you.
Everyone is trying to solve like an unsolved mystery here with Buffalo. I'm 74 years old. I've been a fan for 60 years, and I just want to put these things together for you. 4 Super Bowl losses in a row. You do the math on that, 0.5 probability times 0.5 times 0.5 times 0.5. It's about a 6% probability that an event like that can occur. So not really probable. The second item is the Music City Miracle. I've watched the play 100 times. That ball is absolutely perfectly thrown. I don't think it could ever happen again. That's perfect, and especially with the new rules. The third item is 13 seconds. That can't happen. I mean, it did happen, but logically, practically, you can't pull off a play like that. The fourth item is something that I learned from the morning team, I think, and it's 4 losses out of the last 5 years against Kansas City. When you do the probability on that, it's about a 6% probability too. So phenomenally low probability. And the last thing is, once again, something else that I learned from the morning team, and this is in the playoffs, out of the last 62 times, a team has scored 4 touchdowns without any turnovers. 59 of the 62 times, the team with 4 or more touchdowns and no turnovers won the game.
Okay, so here
out of the 62
say it.
Lost.
What's the point?
The point is there's something else going on here. It's like the Boston Red Sox not winning the World Series for 80 years, or the Cubbies not winning it for 100 years.
Then they did.
They did, but look how long it takes. Are you willing to go another 40 or 50 years with that never happening to us?
What choice do you think we have?
I feel pretty good today.
What are you supposed to do about it?
Explain it. You can't explain it. They could be as good as...
I can explain it. Wait, Richard, thank you. You appreciate the kind words. I can explain it. The Chiefs are great. The teams the Bills lost Super Bowls to were mostly great. I mean, what is 6%? Like some ridiculous possibility, I guess, if you're doing the math the way you're doing it. We all saw it happen. If you're trying to blame God for it, say it. I'm not with you. I do not think there are divine forces. I think that teams, as they win, become tougher to beat. It's the confidence you have. It's the lack of confidence they have. And, maybe it's not players, but if you talk to people about Chiefs-Bills that are impartial, they'll be like, just like last year, we'll believe Buffalo when they do it.
Yeah.
And so it can be a harder task for the athlete on the team that's been losing those games. I don't deny that, but I don't think it's, from the sky.
Yeah. 6% is, it's low. It's also not 0.6%. So, it's still, not great, not very good odds, but it's not unfathomable to me that any of that could have happened. I think on the Chiefs and their mystique and the Bills' place in it, I suspect that the start of the game was some evidence of that. Like, I think Allen felt like, I got to do this. We have a chance. They're not as good as they've been. Kind of like a lot of us were I was talking last week. They're vulnerable. We can get them. I just got to do it. And then the game starts, and he was erratic. He just was. He leveled off. He calmed down, and he made some very good plays in this game. But to me, it was not unlike Lamar Jackson's first half against the Bills. What's different is that Allen didn't turn it over 2 times in the first half. He could have turned it over 2 times on the first drive. Well, that would have been impossible because if the first one were a turnover, but you know what I'm saying. I mean,
the second play and the third play.
He threw some very dangerous balls, dropped an easy shotgun snap, missed other easy throws. He was shaky to start the game, and I don't know that it's because something was in his head, but I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. It's a tough thing to go do, slay that team. So he might have been tight going in. Maybe somebody else was too. Who knows? I don't know how the other players might react to all that stuff. Like, I know what they'll tell you is like, I'm just over there on the sideline trying to do my job, when it's my turn, all that kind of stuff. Man, your dude is like throwing balls into triple coverage that are getting batted around like volleyballs. Like, how did you feel watching it? I felt pretty damn unsettled myself.
But they did take the lead.
They did.
In the fourth quarter, had the ball with the lead, whatever that was, they kind of got away with it. He did. Thanks, Richard. John is next. Hi, John.
Hey, guys. Good afternoon. It took me about 5 to 10 minutes, really, to kind of be over it last night. We're used to it. Nobody wanted to hear the transition year stuff, but listen, several guys took a big leap forward this year. We've got a ton of cap space, draft capital. You know what? There's guys like I thought about like Patrick Ewing ran into Michael Jordan, or Connor McDavid doesn't have a Stanley Cup yet. How many years has it been for him?
Right.
I think it's going to happen. I just equate this to more of like a Peyton Manning. It's going to happen. This just wasn't the year, and I know it's just Monday, the day after. It sucks. Nobody wants to hear it, but I seriously see reason to be tremendously optimistic for next year that they're going to add a couple of pieces. I mean, like I said, no one wants to hear that, but it is what it is, and the Michael Jordan comparison. There's plenty of all-time greats that played in the 90s that just came up short because that's who they had to contend with. And we're in a conference with the Michael Jordan of the NFL, I feel like. And we just got over being in the conference with the top with, another Michael Jordan. But anyways, guys, I'll hang up. That's all I got to say. And you have a good rest of the day.
Thanks.
Thank you. I don't know about lots of cap space. This is all come into focus as we move into February and eventually March and the real off season beginning. But SpotTrack has them 2.5 over going into next year right now. Now there's a lot they can do. There's a lot of guys that are going to be on the team that can get their contracts adjusted and extended. Josh Allen may be at the front of the line there, so they'll create space. They should be in better shape than they were last year, but that's, still they're not sitting on $20 million as the season ended yesterday.
They have Houston's second-round pick in addition to their own. They don't have their third. That went to the Browns for Cooper, and they have the Browns 6th. There might be something else on day 3 that is different too. I don't know. Justin is next. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys? Thank you for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Got a couple of points that I want to bring up to you guys. So, Sean McDermott, man, he can never seem to get over the hump. It's time to move on from him. And who I would replace him with, I would replace him with Eric Bieniemy, or I would go with I would offer Bill Belichick whatever he wants to leave UNC Chapel Hill, or I would go with John Gruden. And then the second thing I want to bring up is it's time to get rid of Kyer Elam and move on from him. And the third thing is it's time to move on from Dalton Kincaid. And who I would replace Dalton Kincaid with is the guy out of Clemson, that tight end, Jake Burningstool.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll hang up.
Get some ideas. Thanks, Justin. Here's Dwayne next. Hi, Dwayne.
Hi. How everybody doing? I was going to ask you, when you start, when they do that quarterback sneak, why, this had to have been practiced. Why not try it on the right side? Why not try it, if you're going to go on the right side or that, how about a silent count where you got the advantage then, and then you watch the guy who was pushing Josh Allen. Why don't we bring in one of our biggest defensive linemen to go behind Josh Allen and do the push? Because when I was watching the guy push Josh, he's basically got his hands on him trying to shove him. Do like the refrigerator Perry bit. Have Josh Allen with the ball, bring the big guy in pushing. But I would have tried it to the right or a silent count after it failed once, and you've seen these guys who are below you. Something's wrong here. You can't keep going to the same thing. It ain't going to work.
Well, maybe there's a point or two there about how they could have prepared differently. I'm not going to, in the middle of a game, pivot to bringing in somebody that hasn't practiced it. And the play has so rarely failed for them that maybe they are on some level guilty of not being, more diverse when it comes to the sneak. You could maybe blame them for that, but it's been very successful, and I'd only blame them so much for thinking that they really didn't need to be cute on that stuff or different. I'd rather pivot to a different play than a different sneak
gap
technique or gap or strategy. I'd rather play action out of it. However micro you want to make it, for the whole year, for as much as they won, it always felt to me like this wasn't Allen enough. This team just wasn't Allen enough. It's too much Cook. It's just the kind of thing that they'll maybe get married to. And do they know where to find the button if they need Allen to take over a game? And did they have the roster for it? These things work together. They had a roster that was in kind with how they played, which makes sense. That is what you'd want. But the moment last week I said, I'm done fighting this, is when I needed to keep fighting it, I guess.
Right.
That was not the time to quit.
I think it's a good question the caller raises about why not try it on the right than the left. I don't know if it's as simple as just saying it and doing it. It doesn't seem like a very complicated concept, but they never pivoted to it, and I'd love to know if there is some reason that is escaping my feeble football mind for not trying that. They did try something. Allen did something different. I don't know if he was instructed to do that, but he did the plunge over the top thing, and that almost turned into their first turnover since what?
First fumble lost since week 4.
There you go. Thank you.
But it didn't.
It didn't.
I think Tony Romo was the first person I heard make the point that they always sneak to one side. Does that sound right to you? I think he was the first person, a few weeks during the season.
Yeah. It became pretty apparent. You're watching every snap of this team play football. We could all see it, but I don't know who first pointed it out on a broadcast, but it was pretty clear that they, even going back to getting stuffed at the goal line. I know this predates the tush push concept, but the goal line sneak in Tennessee, where Allen slipped. That was to the left. I don't know if it's his handedness, his strong foot, leg, left-handed, right-handed. I don't know what the answer is.
Yeah, I don't think I realized it before I think it was Romo say it. Eric Wood coming up at 4. Be a good question for him. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, Football Monday on WGR.
It's all Bill.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, Eric Wood at 4, so soon, and Sal at 5 today. Talk to Sal about the game, but also the locker clean out, saying one's goodbyes here as the season comes to an end. I felt today, and I kind of was miffed by this, like I was really not prepared for it to be over.
Yeah, I know.
And I didn't assume they would win. I mean, far from it. But, like, that was what really brought me down sort of in a selfish way this morning was, I'm not prepared to do salary cap and draft capital. I did look, by the way, since the draft came up. So there's a lot of movement. The Bills have their own first, second, fourth, and sixth, I believe. They have Houston's second, Chicago's fourth. That was a flip last year in the draft. And they have the Giants' sixth for Basham. But I think the Giants have their seventh. Cleveland has their third from Cooper, and Houston has the Bills' fifth from the Diggs trade. So the Bills are, I think, in the even rounds, 2 picks in 2, 4, and 6 in addition to their first, which will be pick 30.
Yeah. Yeah, it does. It hits like I heard Sal a little bit earlier today talking about this, and how it's just so sudden. Like you a win, and you've got 2 more weeks of how are they going to attack this team, and oh my gosh, that touchdown by Cook, and like all the stuff, right? I mean, you like 2 weeks of just soaking in a tub full of the glory of your football team, if that doesn't sound too gross. Like you're just bathing in, this is the best, this is so great. And instead, we get done last night. I know it's a Sunday night, but it really struck me. It's 11:30-ish. I'm driving home. First place I pass, closed, no cars in the parking lot. Like bar restaurant type places that I assume would have been brimming with people partying their nuts off if they'd won the game. Dark, next place, dark. It's just so depressing. Like I think every one of those places would have been full of people. And instead, it's like the lights are out and you just go home and go to bed.
Mm-hmm. Here's Mario next. Hi, Mario. Mario?
Hey guys, thanks for taking my call.
Yep, go.
Hey, yeah. So same year, different year, same story. Sometimes I look back on the seasons and I think we all do, like, can we call it like a successful season, especially after the drought? And with this team, they had no expectations going into the season, at least from the national media. We were supposed to lose and not compete, et cetera, et cetera. So if you would have said we were going to lose in the AFC Championship, it would be a win. But just can't help to think, where does a team go from here? Because it seemed like now more than any other time they were in a position to finally do it. But then the game started, and Mike, I think you said it, like Kansas City just seemed like they knew they had the edge, like they were going to beat up on their little brother yet again. And despite all of the issues with the referees, and we can fight about that and maybe lose sleep over it, and I did lose sleep over it, at the end of the day, you want the ball last against this team with an opportunity to win, and we had it. We had 3:33, I think, with 3 timeouts. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And the ball's in our MVP's hands, and he just has to drive like he does in Week 13, 14 against Detroit, whenever that was, and just win the game. And everything was lined up. And I think in that moment it became obvious that, okay, maybe this team doesn't have the personnel to stretch the field and receivers to separate and make plays because the Chiefs put the perfect defense in that moment to take them down. So for me, I'm looking at the team, and it's like maybe we're back at square one in terms of like, okay, yeah, we need receivers. And, okay, maybe Kincaid is a bust.
Well, we will obviously, Mario, thanks. I mean, spend 7 months on this. But
is that all?
Or more. I know, I recognize, we got to get to a break for Eric. I recognize that how the roster maybe looked like it took a step back, but I would not have said that losing in the AFC Championship would have been good for them a year ago. It's just like they've been too close for too many years in a row.
Yeah.
And you're not the same team, but we kind of they all said how they appreciated the different vibe and what the offense was founded on. And Hyde and Poyer got old, and Trey White. I mean, those guys really couldn't hang in the league this year. So they didn't have to be worse. I mean, people talk about the Jets being favored, and that's correct. Not that they were by much, but the Bills' total was like 10.5. It wasn't like they were an underdog this year. They just weren't the division favorite for the first time in 5 years. So how good were they supposed to be? Really good, if not great. And what were they?
Really good, if not great. I think in the end.
They had a great record.
Just to add to this real quick, the call, ball in your hands, MVP, it's 2 years in a row. And last year, it was at home. Exactly the scenario. I think you'd say, "Oh yeah, I'll take that. I love my chances." It's 2 years in a row.
Maybe it's tougher right now to say you'd take it next year.
Yeah.
Eric Wood after sports, Football Monday. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
the Bills season. Next up for the Bills was locker cleanout day, and earlier today, Bills quarterback Josh Allen had this to say on the 2024 team.
I think this is one of the more special units I've ever been around in my entire life, from Pop Warner through high school, through college, in the NFL. Guys truly cared about each other.
You can hear Allen's entire comments with the media and everyone else who spoke today over on our website, WGR550.com. And we'll get more on locker cleanout and the game when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5. But for the Super Bowl, we are just under 2 weeks away from Super Bowl 59. Chiefs and Eagles square off in New Orleans. At stake for KC, it would be an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl title and the fifth in team history, while for the Eagles, they look for their second in team history, the first since 2017. And then the Sabres, they're in action tomorrow when they host Boston, but today the team placed Nicolas Aube-Kubel on waivers, and Aube-Kubel in just 19 games this year put together just 2 points on the season. It's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
Eric Wood's appearance on WGR is being brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com. And by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop at northtownkia.com.
Football Monday on WGR. Unfortunately, a very familiar feeling. The Bills lose a close one in Kansas City, 32-29, and it's the Chiefs to the Super Bowl again. Eric Wood joins us now. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog. Eric's on the West Her hotline. What's the right first question? How are you? How about that? How are you today?
I'm good. I ended up driving back from Kansas City last night. I had planned on stopping, but after a game like that, your mind's racing, so you just truck it home, and a lot of road time, a lot of windshield time to think about the game and how it unfolded and in the season. So we can unpack all that.
All right. Yeah. Well, there's plenty to unpack. Can we maybe start here, if you'll indulge me? One of my most prominent thoughts is how, and I just said it at the end of last segment again, how last year, Bills with the ball, down 3, in your barn. All right, I love my chances. Let's go. This is what I'm waiting for. I've got the guy that can make this happen, so let's make it happen. And we all know how that ended. And now yesterday, not in my barn, instead back in their place, and very similar. I'm down 3. I've got the arsenal of timeouts. I'm all right. I've got my MVP guy. Let's go. And without, tearing Josh apart, because that would be asinine, is it fair to, wonder, God, can he – I know it's a lot to ask, but, man, it's 2 years in a row. He just has not been able to get them there.
Yeah, and it's frustrating and it's disappointing. And, those drives are the ones at the end you remember. And, it's different moments throughout the game that lead you to that point in the game where you're down at the end. And so, yeah, just couldn't get it done at the end 2 years in a row. And you like your spot. I mean, at the beginning of the season in a transition year, if you would have said – we're going to be at the AFC Championship game, we're going to get the ball back, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 timeouts, we'd feel pretty good about that, and just couldn't get it done in the end. And it's disappointing, and each year that goes by, it's not a wasted year by any means. There's so many great memories. There's so much great that came from this season as far as memories and moments and a potential MVP, but this is year 7 for Josh Allen. We haven't been able to get to the Super Bowl yet, and I know he's likely got a long career ahead of him. He's incredibly gifted. He's still young, but oh man, it's just frustrating. And the way that they built momentum throughout the season, the way the roster was built, the way that they could attack you from so many different angles, the way the run game emerged, especially late in the year and in the playoffs, you just felt really good about the Bills' chances yesterday.
On their last series, I watched 5 minutes from Jeff Schwartz today on just the last play and how he thought there had to be miscommunication between the line and the quarterback, or one or both just didn't see what they should have been able to see. On that, how fresh is that play in your mind? Allen sort of running into the corner blitz from his right, and then the heave to Kincaid that still could have been caught, but looked like maybe the Bills or Allen himself should have looked elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's easy to say that now, obviously. And, in the moment when me and Chris were talking about it in the break, and I said, all year in those must-have situations, they've ran a lot of that orbit motion with Shakir, and it's worked. And either teams rally to Shakir and someone comes open across the middle, or they don't rally to Shakir on that orbit motion, whether he keeps going or he goes back the opposite way. It's just worked time and time again. So they go to it out of an empty formation, so you don't have the back there to potentially provide some extra insurance if there is a miscommunication. But I had recorded with Ryan Fitzpatrick today on my Center on Buffalo podcast, and he was talking about from a quarterback's perspective. This was interesting to me that Steve Spagnuolo loves the will free safety blitz. So the will's going to come and the free safety is going to come. But if it's a condensed formation like it was, the Bills were into the boundary and there's a tighter split by the wide receiver, then they'll often convert that to a corner. But it's so hard for a quarterback to see because there's not really indications that corner is going to come on the play. And I heard Connor McGovern talking his post-game in the locker room after the game, talking about how he wishes he would have slid that protection right to provide Josh more protection. They end up having a guy on the left-hand side who was simply just spying, so we had too many blockers to the left, not enough on the right, and I don't know enough about it to say who was at fault there, but obviously a protection breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough look when you get to it. Osiris Torrance ends up blocking air. And I don't know that David Edwards did much of anything as far as blocking anyone on the play because, all the pressure came from the right side. Torrance thinks the guy in front of him, that guy pivots toward McGovern and he goes with him, but then McGovern ends up with him and then Torrance is just sort of like, oh, and then by then the DB is by him and it's just a jailbreak.
And real quick on that, I mean, cornerback blitzes are gutsy calls. If there's a quick built-in beater on the outside there, or Josh makes them pay, I mean, we might be having a conversation today where does Spags keep his job? I mean, you fire corners like that, it is risky, but give him credit to have the guts to do it in that situation. And maybe you didn't like how the Bills were driving down the field again, and after, they had 2 punts in their first 3 or 4 possessions, and they really got it rolling offensively. So, and then they get stopped on that 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. But, I guess he said, screw it, let's fire the corner here, and it paid off.
With Eric Wood, we've got to talk about these quarterback sneak plays, Eric. Like 3 times stopped in this game with the quarterback the size of Allen. Can you explain it? Is there a technical aspect of this from a lineman standpoint or from Allen's? We've seen how the Bills almost always go to the left, or Allen almost always goes to the left here. How did the Chiefs stop him 3 times?
Yeah, the one still shot that I saw from above, they had Chris Jones lined up. It looked like offsides, but unless you're touching in those situations, they generally don't call it. Or if someone flinches, before the snap, then they'll call it. But it looked like they had Chris Jones lined up to Connor McGovern's right, really crowding him, if not offsides, and then trying to just shove him to the left to try and clog it up further on the left-hand side. Guys went low, other guys went high. And in those situations where you have the push behind them, there's not really anything else you could do in those situations. You can try and find kind of a different gap that Josh can go through, but give them credit. They stopped or close to stopped him, and the officials called it a stop. And so, Kansas City, I believe, had given up 32 of 32 on their last QB sneak stop attempts, and then they get 3 yesterday. 1 takes points off the board with the 2-point conversion attempt, and the other one stops a drive that the Bills could have extended a lead. So, we were talking on the broadcast. I was down on the field before the game. The field is super hard to get footing with the real short grass and really, kind of a frozen surface below it. I don't know if that affects maybe the push you can get offensively as they're kind of submarining at the line of scrimmage, but they got it done.
How can you answer for us why you wouldn't ever consider, well, I shouldn't say never consider, I don't know if the Bills considered it, but they certainly didn't do anything with it, rather than continuing to hammer it to the left like we've seen them do all year long? why not go to the right of McGovern, like over Torrance, between Torrance and Spencer Brown, just for a changeup after the Chiefs had been stuffing you? Is there a reason that my feeble football mind can't grasp for why you wouldn't do that?
I mean, it's I don't know exactly either. Generally, when we would teach the sneak, we were either looking at matchups that we could attack. Is there a lighter defensive tackle? Is there a more open gap up there, and then let the quarterback – we're all blocking it the exact same way, kind of everybody's wedging inside on the play, and then let the quarterback find a gap. The Bills always go left, and they were 21 of 22 on the season. So that's just like that's their confidence. And I've thought about this at length as well, and it's a great question. The center starts to play with his right hand between his legs. It's easier to kind of get a little momentum, I guess, or get more on a guy with your left.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
That's potentially why. Maybe they like, Dion is coming down. He's your most powerful lineman up front, and maybe they like to just kind of go behind 73 in those situations.
Well, Eric, I mean, very similar to last year, not an easy team to figure out what to do with or what to fix. We had the whole concept this year where the Bills, everybody eats, all of that. It's so tired at this point. And my hesitation, I never was really on board, but they kept winning and winning, and just it sounded like a love fest. And I just couldn't get to a point where, like, I assumed it was going to win in the end. Is there somebody good enough as a receiver on this team to step up and be the guy when it matters, even if teams expect it to be that guy, somebody who can overcome that? Does this game, for as much success as they had, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, I'm asking you, does this game change your opinion about how it all went, or what you think the Bills might be thinking, or Brandon Beane might be thinking going into next year about this?
No, not necessarily. And, this isn't a copy of the Chiefs model, but, I feel like nowadays, if you have a quarterback like Mahomes or Allen who can elevate those around you, certainly the Bengals drafted a Jamar Chase, they drafted a T. Higgins, great. But going out and paying a guy $30 million to play receiver, I don't know that that's the answer. And maybe it is, but just for me looking at it, you have the number 2 scoring offense in the league, and it wasn't an issue for most of the season. They have a great offensive line. They used Cook extremely well this season. He was a stud again yesterday. He continues to get better and better. But I don't know that that's the answer. Are there guys that you can go out there and find some bargains on, or a late first-round draft pick that provides an added speed or down-the-field element? Sure. I'm all for that. I don't know that going out and paying a guy a ton of money on that side of the ball is the answer. Now, you look at the way the Chiefs are built, and it's what's impressed me most about their run is that they've just done it in different ways. It was a high-flying offense, and then it was trade Tyreek Hill, get 2 first-round draft picks for him, put both of those, picks into the defense, pay some guys defensively, and build up that side of the ball. And you just assume that Mahomes can get it done with the cast and crew that you give him. And, yes, you have first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe the best receiving tight end of all time, and Travis Kelce, who's now slowing down at this point of his career. He had a great first week of the playoffs. Bills hold him to 2 catches under 20 yards yesterday. But, they draft Worthy at the end of the first round, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown. I mean, that's not a cast that you would say they're overwhelmingly better than the Bills guys. It's, they executed better than we did yesterday, and they took advantage of the banged-up secondary at times. But, to me, and I don't get paid to do this, I'm pouring assets into the defense, whether that's in our secondary, whether that's up front on the defensive line.
Yeah, I mean, I think corner is going to be a lot of talking, almost like it was 3 years ago when they drafted Elam and Benford, because I don't know what they're going to want to do with Douglas, whose contract is up. Elam has to be, I think, done. Benford, I would expect will recover, from what was a very tough scene yesterday. But I think they're going to need a guy, unless they want to re-sign Douglas. I don't know what that'll cost, but I sort of felt like, Eric, as the year went on, more and more he was like at the scene of the crime on plays, whether they were all his fault all the time. I mean, I can't know because scheme and zone and what, but I just feel like Douglas was, so high on him last year. He was one of the guys that got hurt late that we were moaning about, like, oh, we didn't have all our guys and Douglas is playing on one leg. This year felt kind of like a letdown from him.
Yeah, I agree, especially when they got the man-man coverage. I felt like when it was man-to-man, he was often targeted. And he's a ball hawk. He's a great zone corner. He's got tremendous size to set the edge. I think on a smaller deal, he's a guy that you look to bring back and then maybe try and upgrade, but you still have him in there for dime packages or, insurance in case someone gets hurt, or, you feel good about him and you got to play more zone defense when you get Rasul Douglas, because the top-end speed's just not there, and that's his MO. I mean, he had so many takeaways through the first part of his career, you'd assume he would be a $25 million corner. Well, the reason for that is he's not a burner, and when you get man-to-man defense and you have a guy like Worthy or whoever it may be that's going to run a crossing route and there's rub elements to it, you got to have some serious speed to keep up with those guys.
Douglas did not have an interception this season for the Bills. Correct. After 4 in 9 games last year for them. Well, Eric, I mean, I want to ask you something about like what the players do now, but I think I kind of know. You get some time away here, right? Like this is a very sudden and disappointing ending to the guys like Allen and McDermott who've been here for so long. It's got to feel familiar. Would there probably be some sense of, I don't even know right now what the next thing is from them? I mean, I think that would seem natural because they've been so close.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these guys weren't making plans to do anything this week. There was plenty of times where we knew come some part of December that our season was about to end. So, you kind of had plans for right after the season to go back to your hometown or, go on a vacation or what my training schedule is going to look like and all that. Yeah, I would assume it's a lot of shock there because, those guys aren't making plans and assuming they're going to lose that game. And so, it's different for everybody. I was kind of a guy that I like to take a week, maybe 2 off if the season didn't end with a surgery and then get right back into training. I always felt like it was easier to stay in shape than get back in shape. But everyone's different, and guys are wired a different way. Some people need a bunch of time to get away from it to be able to fully then commit to the following season. And so it's different for everybody, but it's heartbreaking. These locker cleanout days are awful. It's no fun saying bye to everybody, knowing that there's going to be a lot of faces that aren't going to be in that locker room again come springtime when you all get back together. So it's not a fun day, and I know you guys have covered the team for a long year, so you've heard plenty of the sentiments over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes like a bus that hits you in a crosswalk that you didn't see coming. I mean, it's like we were talking about it a little bit earlier, Eric. Leaving here last night, I'm driving past 5, 6, 7 bar restaurant places that are all parking lots empty, dark, lights out, closed. Now, it's a Sunday night at 11:30, but juxtapose that with what it would have looked like if the Bills had won that game. I bet there would have been people like swinging from chandeliers in all those places last night.
I know it. Yeah, and it's abrupt end for everybody, and this is such a passionate fan base, and there's other passionate fan bases around the NFL. A team in LA or Miami that loses, people go on with their lives. And, my wife texted me last night that the kids were crying during prayer time before bed, just so upset that the season's over and they were hoping to go to the Super Bowl too. And, they're going to have to listen to their friends at school and whatnot, which led to some fun conversations this morning on how to handle that. But, I mean, myself included, I'm gutted for the team. Yeah. And, there's a lot of close relationships. And, heck, I wanted to go to New Orleans really bad myself. I wanted to call a Super Bowl. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of a Super Bowl parade in Buffalo. I always joke with Brandon Bean that when it happens, I'll just be security for him from the Super Bowl party afterwards all the way through the parade. You can just I'll wear all black if you need me to, but I'll be your security just so I can be along for the ride. But, it just – you're right. It hits you like a ton of bricks. And, I honestly had a lot of optimism going into the game yesterday. I felt like this team was best suited when you go into the game and Rapp's your only player out defensively. You're as healthy as you've been in the postseason. You got a team that, okay, you're going to take away our pass. We can get you with the run. Like, I just felt like this team was equipped to go in there and get a win. and it just didn't happen. And look, give the Chiefs credit. They made a lot of plays. They made life difficult on the Bills. I thought throughout the game it was easier for the Chiefs to move the ball and harder for the Bills. And after a quarter or so, if the Bills won, I almost would have felt like they stole one just based upon the fact how hard it was early on them to move the football offensively. And even, you put up that touchdown before the half, and Josh has got to throw a perfect ball to Mac Hollins, and he's interfered on the play, so we likely score anyways, but he's got to pull it in one-handed because he's got one arm tied up, and it just felt like it was harder for us to move the ball throughout the game, harder for us to get stops, and because of that, give them credit, they fought their tails off to get back in that game and have a lead in the fourth quarter. But ultimately, with a team like that, and you kind of hear it in the voices of the guys and Josh talking today, it's almost like they knew, like, we need to go in and take that. We needed a 2-score lead. Mm-hmm. We needed to take it to them because you give Mahomes and that crew the ball at the end of the game, or if it comes down to the wire, they're really tough to beat.
I hope your kids are all right. What is Louisville? A Bengals town mostly? There's got to be some Chiefs or some Colts.
Yeah, we don't have a team here, so there's a ton of Bengals fans. And then you also have people that just claim random teams just because they can, because they don't have a team here. But Dallas. It's amazing how many – but just through kind of our affiliations, people I've brought to games over the years, friends of mine, the fact that the Bills are cool, Josh Allen's exciting as it gets in the NFL, it's amazing how many – A, Bills fans there are here, and B, how many, you get a spirit day at school and you'll have 10 Josh Allen jerseys, or, my son likes to, show off that he's got a Kincaid jersey or a James Cook, something different.
Yes,
but,
yes. Boy after my own heart.
Yeah, because he's a real fan, And so,
oh, you're going to be a real fan. You got to get your kid a McGovern jersey. Then come on, get him the current center of the team jersey, Eric.
Yeah, I recommend. I think last year to him, and I can't remember who he got, but I mean this little man, he's got Josh Allen's high school Fireball jersey. So
nice.
It's hard. It's really hard for me to deny him when he wants something like that. You work your tail off to financially be able to provide that. I know how much I wanted jerseys when I was a kid, and my parents would give me some. I'm not acting like I was completely deprived, but when you have the resources to do it, it's really hard for me to turn those down.
My wife and son were in Louisville yesterday, or for the weekend, and I texted you a couple pictures. The bourbon, it's got to be from. It's not bourbon if it's not from Kentucky. And my wife found a place where they had a menu. Everything's locally. Angel's Envy, I guess the distillery is right in Louisville, maybe.
Yep.
So they enjoyed it. They enjoyed the people, my wife said.
Good, yeah. Louisville reminds me, it's actually a similar size to Buffalo as well, but just good people. You don't get a ton of egos. People work hard, friendly. It's similar.
Eric, thank you again for today and all season. Get a break, and we'll catch up sometime in the off season here, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it. I know I texted you last night, but you guys got me through part of my drive. I appreciate that. It was you guys were doing a good job. When you guys were cutting off callers, you actually had me laughing out loud. I didn't think I was in a mood to laugh last night, but when I think it was his name might have been Neil, and you're like, all right, well, you got 60 seconds. Come on. And he's like, well, I just didn't think it was right how you cut those callers off. Like, all right, you're done now too.
I mean, it's precious time on that show. We can't have any sort of like. Nobody tells us the rules, right? Nobody tells us the rules. Okay, right. We don't have to be right, but we get to decide. Thanks, Eric. Enjoy your off season here, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, for sure. You guys too. Thanks.
All right. Thanks, Eric. There's Eric Wood on the Western Hotline. His appearances all season long here on WGR have been brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com, and by Northtown Kia, Western New York's #1 Kia dealer. Shop at northtownkia.com. Thanks to those sponsors for sponsoring Eric all year long, too. We appreciate it.
I didn't tell you about that text. Did you get a text last night from him, too? The same thing?
I did not. No.
I didn't tell you about that, but... It's just so funny. Like the kind of thing that maybe Twitter complains about. It's every time my friends text me to say how much they enjoy it. In this case, Eric Wood. He's like, no. He doesn't get to tell you guys how it works. Anyway, 803-0550, Football Monday. Sal at 5. The season ends in Kansas City. We'll look for your calls again after the update. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
It's all Bills.
It is the offseason again as the Buffalo Bills fall in the AFC Championship to the Kansas City Chiefs, marking that the fourth time in 5 years the Chiefs have eliminated the Bills in the postseason. Today was Locker Cleanout Day. If you missed any of that audio from the Bills, you can find it at our website, WGR550.com. We'll also get more on Locker Cleanout today and the game yesterday when Sal Capaccio joins the show at 5. But the Bills did also announce a number of roster moves, a number of future contracts, and also including re-signing lineman Ryan Vandemark. Next up in the NFL is the Super Bowl. It is just under 2 weeks away, and it will be the Chiefs and Eagles squaring off in New Orleans for Super Bowl 59. At stake for KC, it would be an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl title and the fifth in team history, while the Eagles will be looking for their second in team history, their first since 2017. And then the Sabres, while they're in action tomorrow at home against Boston, today the team placed forward Nicholas Abe-Kubel on waivers. Abe-Kubel has played in 19 games this year, but just has 2 points to show for it this season. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Headlines. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's a special team. Like I told you guys earlier in the year that I really couldn't put my finger on what was happening. Some of the things that happened on this team didn't happen on those two Super Bowl teams that I had. Some of the bonds that we had, the way we prepared, this coaching staff, this locker room, like it was things on this team that stood out that wasn't on like those last two Super Bowl teams that I had. It just didn't go our way.
Von Miller, 32-29 Chiefs, 4 touchdowns per.
Each a field goal.
And a field goal. The Chiefs 1 for 1 on 2-point conversions. The Bills 0 for 2. No problem with the decisions for me. I mean, I know there are fans that think it has to be late enough in the game. This was the end of the second quarter, the Hollins touchdown, where they kicked the point and then got a penalty.
And went to the one. Tried to push it and didn't get there.
I would be like up for that almost if the score were 6-0. You know, just that's what I would do if the score were 6-0. I would go for 8-0. Josh Allen from the 1. Didn't work.
I got to be honest, when they missed that time, do you remember what I said to you? We were sitting in here, I'm like, is he going to be scared of going for it on fourth downs now?
Yep.
Rest of the game, like it's a big spot. Well, he didn't end up scared, but he maybe should have pivoted off of that play. I don't know. It's a lot of hindsight. I mean, I mostly, when I said he's going to get scared off of that, was worried they wouldn't try sneaking it on 4th and 1. So I can't be too mad that they kept going with it because it had worked so well. But they just couldn't get there yesterday.
Nope. Here's RJ with us next. Hi, RJ.
Hey, guys. Just a couple things. First off, yesterday, was it just me or did Elam look scared out there? Like, he looked like he was, like, didn't want to be on the field, didn't want to cover somebody.
I don't know about scared. I mean, I don't know. He's not. He hasn't played a lot. He's not very good. I think his confidence has got to be non-existent. I would think he thinks like they don't believe in him. That's why he doesn't even get a uniform sometimes. It's a tough spot. But he's not a player you can count on.
And my other thing is like Kincaid. He's supposed to make that catch as a first-round draft pick. You're supposed to make that catch in the hard times. And the other thing is, why is James Cook is our number 1 running back, correct?
Sure.
Then why is he on the field like a number 1 running back? Why is he off the field when we're starting a drive, and then we bring him in 3 plays later? I understand we got 2 good backs behind him, but he's our great back. And
I think thanks, RJ. I think that they feel that that's connected to his efficiency and his production, is that he's not on the field all the time. You know, they never drafted him to be on the field all the time. We called him a sub back after the draft. And he's obviously their starter, but I doubt – I get it. If they think at his size, he doesn't need to play 75% of the snaps. Yesterday it's 45. You know, you're often around 55 or so percent with Cook. So that would be my guess as to what the Bills would say to that question, that we get what we get out of him partly because he doesn't have to play a lot more.
And to be fair, Ty Johnson has been kind of I'm going to call him he's been a weapon for them. He was good in the role that he played.
Yep.
So I don't think, you get to the end of the line in a game like this and the season ends and it's, well, why didn't you do something different than you were doing most of the year? Recognizing that his playing time was dipped a little bit more than it had in other years, in other games this year. I'm not one who's hung up on who was on the field. Like, they have their roles, and Johnson excelled in his. So did Cook. So to me, it worked until, they couldn't get one more fourth down when they needed it.
Christopher is next. Hello.
What's up, boys? A few pleasantries, I think, before anything. Bulldog, very happy to see you on streaming. I've been wanting to see you on camera ever since the Why Music Matters podcast, so very happy to see you on a day-to-day basis. And Schopp, I mean, what are we doing? The black mock turtleneck, that's a look. I'm loving that right now.
I thought black was in order today, but you'll see more color.
I mean, there's something to be said there. The Chiefs mock turtleneck, black funeral vibes, that whole thing. So I appreciate that.
All right.
But here's what I'm thinking. In one hand, born in 1996. This is probably my favorite Bills season ever, or at least that I can remember. Favorite team ever. But in the other hand, there's this prevailing narrative that McDermott's the problem. And from my perspective, I think, honestly, what's happening is that this idea of McDermott being to blame is criminally overstated. And I think the value, or at least lack of value, that Bean provides from a comprehensive perspective is severely understated. So looking to see what you guys have to think about that. I think if we're talking about first-round draft picks, at least within this McDermott-Bean era, is there a first-round pick outside of Josh Allen, not named Tre'Davious White, who has made a difference? And there's something to be said there about Bean not even necessarily being part of that draft. I think if we're talking about the at least meaningful deficiencies on the roster, we're talking about defensive line, we're talking about pass catching, we're talking about secondary. The assets that we put in, at least as far as the first round is concerned, are those areas. So I'll hang up and listen.
All right. I think Rousseau and Oliver are very good players. Rousseau had a terrible day yesterday. Oliver, conversely, I think had a pretty good day yesterday. They didn't get they still couldn't stop the Chiefs often enough. They did stop them well enough to hold them to a field goal to give you a chance to win the game. They did get them to a 3-and-out and get you the ball back when you had the lead. And that's not nothing. Stops are going to be few and far between if you're playing a team that's functioning at the level the Chiefs were functioning at. I did not think the Chiefs were capable of having that offensive game against almost any team this year, the way their season went. But they saved it for when they needed it, and they had it. They had a very good plan, all those quick-hitting short passes to Marquise Brown and Worthy to start the game. Bills had no answers. The Chiefs just were able to move the ball pretty much at will in the first half.
The Chiefs got open. I think this is going to be a bigger topic than it's been with Bean and the draft, because you've got 3 years in a row, due respect especially to Coleman being a rookie, but where it looks shaky, right? Elam, of course, to Kincaid. Appreciate Knox talking about Kincaid having a torn knee ligament and trouble with his other knee. There's a lot of that we never find out about. That makes it, you want to be a little bit careful just blasting away at guys because they don't always want you to know what's going on there physically. But still, he has not been a home run. And we'll see what Coleman turns into. But the courage there was moving down and dealing with the Chiefs, getting to a guy that you thought was a fit. It's always been in the back of my mind that when they drafted Kincaid, Bean was there to tell you that Allen texted him about Kincaid, and then last year that happened again, that Coleman was somebody Allen had watched, and I don't know, it's time for I'm just throwing that out there. This will be a year where that's going to be scrutinized, and everybody's going to say it's not going to have a lot of value how they need to get the first-round pick right this year, but that's how that stuff tends to go. They'll pick 30th, which isn't, great for that either. But they've missed some, and the spotlight is on that, I think, at this point, with Elam and Kincaid yesterday. And, Coleman and Kincaid in the biggest game of your year combined for 3 catches and like 20 yards or something. Kind of speaks for itself.
Right. And one of those two, Kincaid, respecting the point Knox is making about his health, he's on the scene with 2 hands under the ball with an opportunity to make, one of the plays of the year for the Bills. And just like, it's not exactly a straight line from that to if it were the Chiefs, but same scenario. Mahomes chucks that ball up. Aren't you 100% certain Travis Kelce's coming down with it? Even if he has to adjust, even if his knee hurts? They make those plays. The Bills seem to not make those plays. It is not to say it would have been an easy play, but it also should not have been impossible.
I would have said it about Andrews.
Sure.
Too.
Yeah, right.
And he dropped the ball.
Fair. Yep, that's fair.
But these big draft investments, and it's all well and good to spread the ball around and enjoy how that feels. 3 for 25 from your 2 most recent earliest draft picks. And then you get Juju over here going 2 for 60 off the scrap heap.
And the guy that you let the Chiefs draft by trading with them is the most dangerous player on the field. That's not named Mahomes or Allen.
6 for 85 and 1 for Worthy. Football Monday continues after a break. Sal Capaccio at 5. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, WGR.
It's
Got to quickly just and wrap up my Zach Ertz rant just now.
That's what that was?
That was a mini rant.
Zach Ertz rant.
I lost a great team because of Zach Ertz. People have had it worse. Let's go to Richard. Hi, Richard.
Hey, how you doing, guys?
All right, Richard, thanks.
I noticed just two things. At the beginning of the game, I referred to him as the deer in the headlights, Josh Allen. He came out on that first drive and did not look like the confident Josh Allen, and his throws reflected that. And secondly, my other thing is, at the end of the game, let's reverse it. The Chiefs are down 3. They have the ball, 2 minutes left in the game. Then 90% of the time they're going to cash in and get that touchdown. I think we're almost there. I think we need to be patient, but we're just not quite there yet. That's it.
Thank you. I don't think it's 90.
Just feels like 190% chance that they would get the touchdown. I think I'm curled up in a ball on the floor if that scenario is unfolding. I think I'm watching through my fingers like I'm watching the Blair Witch Project.
Has the show ever sounded older?
Yeah.
I don't think it's 90. And, there's a field goal. The fact that it's 3, it's almost better for the team that's losing if it's 4, because you're going to use 4 downs. I mean, the Bills didn't get close enough yesterday where there was really any question about that. But you can play for a tie, which, in that scenario, maybe think about this as the Chiefs yesterday. When the Bills take the ball, they're down 3. How do they feel? Would they have taken a field goal from the Bills on that drive? Maybe. Yeah. I think I would say yes.
Especially if it comes with like a minute left.
Right.
Or 30 seconds left. Even.
Right.
Right.
It felt great to see Kansas City get stopped on the previous series. I mean, they're humming. And there's a sack. So they get to like 2nd or 3rd and 17, end up kicking the field goal there to take the lead. That felt great. You would have loved that when the Chiefs were driving there to know they would only get 3 points. Tony is next. Hello, Tony.
What's going on, guys? How you guys doing today? I appreciate you guys having me on.
Thank
Been
you.
Up since 3:30 this morning, and this one guy in particular has just been haunting me. It's Elam. I can't fathom his ability to play football. Is he playing in the CFL? Guy's 10 yards off the ball, acting like Xavier Worthy has to waggle on him. This guy's playing scared out there. First-round picks for what? For what? I just cannot believe it anymore. Watching this guy play football yesterday, how is this guy in the NFL? He wouldn't even make a CFL roster, for crying out loud.
Gotcha. Thanks, Tony. Lou next. Hi, Lou.
Hey, guys. I'm 66 years old. I think Bulldog, you're a little older than Schopp.
Yeah, that's right.
A little.
Yeah, just a little.
little bit, okay. No, it just brings, like, these 4 series versus KC, it brings me back to the 90s when I've been a Bills fan all my life. Man, it's frustrating. When Kelly was on the helm, I mean, I think Kelly was a lot better quarterback than Josh Allen. He didn't use his legs. He was smart. If Kelly would have played 4 times against a same opponent, I bet you they would have won 3 out of 4. Now, it's just frustrating to me. I don't know. Sometimes I think, and I don't mean this disrespect to you guys, but you guys are making excuses for these guys. I'm sorry. Like, KC has the same freaking, injuries and this and that, but they keep winning. I think with McDermott, he's a defensive specialist, and for some reason, the defense didn't play well for me. Like, there was guys, there was KC guys open all over the field.
Yeah, well, I don't disagree with that. I don't know if that's making excuses, and I want to just to comment on it. Due respect to Jim, I think Allen is better, but it's also a quarter century in between, and
very different game. Yeah, I mean, look, no, I'm not going to push back and sound defensive about sounding like I'm making excuses. Every opportunity when it naturally comes up, I'm asking about Allen having the ball in his hands the last 2 years. in a scenario that we would all sign up for. Get a touchdown, you win. Yesterday, provided the clock cooperates.
Or a field goal to tie.
And consecutive years, he has not been able to get them there. And, that is stark. Like that stings. And we tend to deflect more to draft picks and Kyer Elam and Brandon Beane and Sean McDermott and what he did in the Houston game, 4 months ago and all this different stuff and, ball it all up. And no, the game is not played only in the final 3 minutes of the game. But if you're on the field with a dude who is a monster rock star transformer that Josh Allen is, I think you love your chances. And that's going to get harder and harder to feel good about. Because 2 years in a row, that scenario, not everybody would have signed up for it and expected a win. But put the shoe on the other foot. The guy on the other side he's being compared to in this generation of quarterbacks, you're terrified of that guy with the ball down 3 with 3 minutes left in an arsenal of timeouts. And we haven't been able to get it done. Now, that dude's got Andy Reid. And I've got what I've got. So that's not to say it's all Allen's fault, but I don't know. That to me doesn't sound like excuse making.
I think that's fair. Sal coming up next. Football Monday continues here on WGR.
It's
Another Bills season ends with the Kansas City Chiefs being victorious. 4 times in the last 5 years, the Bills season has ended against Kansas City. And for the Bills, it was locker cleanout day. And earlier this afternoon, Bills quarterback Josh Allen had this to say on the 2024 edition of the Buffalo Bills.
I think this is one of the more special units I've ever been around in my entire life, from Pop Warner through high school, through college, in the NFL. Guys truly cared about each other.
You can hear all of Allen's comments with the media today and everyone else who spoke over at our website, WGR550.com. And we'll get more on Locker Cleanout Day and the game yesterday as Sal Capaccio joins the show next. But this is not the only Bills news today. The team also had a number of roster moves that they announced, including re-signing lineman Ryan Vandemark. Next up for the NFL, though, it is the Super Bowl. Super Bowl 59, just under 2 weeks from now. Chiefs and Eagles square off in New Orleans. At stake for KC, an unprecedented third straight Super Bowl title, the 5th in team history, while the Eagles, it would be their 2nd in team history, the 1st since 2017. And then the Sabres, they're in action tomorrow when they host Boston, but today the team plays forward Nicolas Aube-Kubel on waivers. Aube-Kubel played in just 19 games and had 2 points this season. It's Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Sal Capaccio.
Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio. Sal Capaccio.
On WGR.
Football Monday continues. Sal Capaccio with us on the Wester Hotline, back from Kansas City, I presume. Bulldog and I were fortunate enough to get an invite to this game from a listener of ours in Kansas City, and he, I for a couple days last week was going to take it, but ended up not. We were here. He sent me an email this morning with pictures from tailgate from the stadium. And Sal, he said that, I think he said, generally at least, he'd never heard more Bills fans there than yesterday. You've been there a number of times now. Would you say the same?
Yes. It felt like there were more Bills fans than usual at Arrowhead Stadium. They're generally a pretty good amount of fans, but it looked like there were more than normal.
You know, it really showed up on the telecast anyway. We don't get a chance with the delay to listen to the broadcast you're on, of course, with Eric and Chris Brown. But when Amari Cooper, he only caught 2 passes, but I think both times you could hear the fans chanting Coop. And that, we noticed it both, whoa, Bills fans, look at that.
Yeah, the first one for sure. Well, he's one of many topics, isn't he? Cooper, it just did not take off for the Bills and for Amari Cooper this year, culminating in just those 2 plays yesterday. Sal, to sum it up, just as we start this conversation, why did they lose, right? What was it for you in this game that made the difference?
For me, a lot of it was the Bills' inability on short yardage. I really felt that if they could have been better on short yardage, they would have had the ball. In critical situations where they could have sustained drives, that would have kept the Chiefs' offense off the field. That's one of the stories. I think that's a big part of the story for me. The tush-push, not doing something different when that wasn't working. And although I will readily admit, Chris suggested that on the broadcast, and I said, boy, it's the best play they have, though. You got to stay with it, right? What's the chance of not getting a yard? You got to get it. You got to get a yard. I was wrong. I mean, they just didn't, especially in that last one, they didn't get, controversy or not. They didn't get it. I think that was part of the issue on offense. I think generally they did not do the things they normally did this year to get where they were early enough, which is run the ball with James Cook. He had 4 carries in the first half. I don't know why he wasn't used until later when it started moving. And then on defense, they just couldn't get a stop in the first half. Some nice adjustments in the second half. They started slowing down. They got a couple stops. I mean, between the Ravens game and the Chiefs game, the Bills didn't force a punt for 6 quarters of football. I mean, you got to be able to stop them. This is a Chiefs team that didn't score more than 30 points all year. They had 21 at halftime against the Bills. You got to make a stop. They did not face a third down until the second quarter.
Yeah, I was really not expecting that from Kansas City offensively. Credit to Andy Reid. I mean, I felt like that was Not having gone through their games and analyzed the film or paid like that close attention to it, it felt like, again, on the broadcast, they were getting credit for doing different things than they did a lot of the year. And I know Greg Rousseau, for one, I saw a quote from him today at Locker Cleanout, like studying film with them. There were some the quarterback runs. Like, we didn't see that. That didn't show up on film anywhere all year. So, I mean, that's Andy Reid, and that's getting in the lab and, being able to coast through your season to an extent with the record they had. I wonder how long Andy Reid would admit he was working on stuff for the Bills. Was it just last week? Or was it, I don't know, in December when they were cruising along at 12-1 or whatever their record was?
Yeah, I wonder if it was for the Bills or just for the AFC Championship game.
Right.
Just whoever you're going to play, right? You're going to put something out there that, you haven't done yet. I don't know if it's Bills specific, but it's the right point you're making, which is they had wrinkles and the Bills didn't have answers for those wrinkles. The Bills, it's a great way to think about this, which is I've seen a lot today, of course, because here we have a Bills coaching staff led by Sean McDermott who have not been able to beat Kansas City, and that falls at his lap every year for right or wrong or what he's done or not. Mike, you said it right earlier. There's nothing specific he did in this game management-wise that anybody should be really upset with. But the Bills did things throughout the game that they basically – now, I don't think they did enough of these things necessarily, didn't execute them enough, but they kind of stuck with what got them there, right? Like, that's what they did. They stuck with what got them there. Josh Allen making some throws, keeping it short. They did go downfield in the middle of the field a little bit, not on the perimeter that much, not a lot of that. They ran the ball, not until the second half enough for me, but they started running the ball really well. James Cook, they got him there. The Chiefs did the opposite. The Chiefs did things that they did not do most of the year, especially in critical situations, and varied it up. And I think that's what upsets a lot of Bills fans today. I totally get that. I will say there is a risk in doing that, right? And the Chiefs have to, if you're not going to do it until the championship game, it could also wind up being something that backfires on you. But they trusted what they did, and they worked on it, and they did things that the Bills were not ready for. Osiris Torrance talked about that on the fourth down. Osiris Torrance told me on the fourth down, the final one we're talking about, that Josh heaved up to Dalton Kincaid. He said, on film, the Chiefs... He said always. Now, I'm sure it's not always, but he said always. He said they blitz from the side that they're not showing blitz from. So they were showing blitz from the Bills' right-hand side of the offense. So they slid protection to the left because they generally do that. They show one side, they come from the other. Well, guess what Steve Spagnuolo did? He showed that side, and he came from that side, and that's why there was a jailbreak.
Yeah, that was a really tough
Yep.
Neither of the guards ended up blocking anyone on that play.
Tough last offensive play of the year.
Really, really tough. I mean, Torrance, he's ready to move to his left to block the guy that ends up running into McGovern. Edwards shows up while Allen is scrambling. Like, should I be doing something? Like, it's just a very tough look to end your season on. And that's not even mentioning the fact that Allen, despite all of the duress he was under, still got the ball to where it was at least catchable. Not easy, but still catchable.
Yeah, and what hurts is if you watch the All-22 on that, I don't know if Dalton Kincaid was the primary target, but holy cow, is he open.
Yeah.
And if Josh is protected at all, that is a huge gain. I mean, there's nobody running with him.
Yeah.
And I think that's why Josh knew he was there. So when Josh rolled to his right, he knew, hey, he's going to be there. He looked. And that, by the way, was like a perfect angle for me. I saw it. I think, sure enough, it hit him in his arms, right? And you hope your first-round tight end catches that. A guy who has really good hands. There's no doubt. I'm not going to say that, oh, my God, no, it was way too hard of a catch. But it was not also easy. The ball was fluttering. It was a little bit. And the bigger thing for me was Dalton was running to, like,
the boundary
across the field towards the sideline,
yeah.
And he had to kind of turn in the inside at the last second to catch it. It was not an easy catch. I think Mark Andrews' drop last week was a lot worse, right? He should have had that one. But all in all, like, it was not an easy play to make. But you're right. And, man, if you just watch that play from the top, you're like, I don't know if Dalton Kincaid was the primary target, but if Josh is able to be protected, I mean, he is running free.
Yeah, I'm with you on Kincaid there. Like, it's not great, but that's a tough play when you're going, you're going your direction, the ball's coming before you expect it. You've got to turn and get low. That to make the catch, and didn't happen. To further the discussion about, like, the Chiefs doing things that were different, I think in terms of the Bills on offense, who was I supposed to turn to that was going to be that guy in this game? I mean, they just, as much credit as they got and gave themselves for their approach this year, they did not have somebody that they could be like, all right, this guy, maybe you disagree, this guy, this matchup in this game, I can exploit this. And then you're at halftime like, oh, Curtis Samuel has 7 catches already. Like, wow, something like that. But who was that supposed to be? Defensively, though, it's reasonable enough, isn't it, Sal, to sort of put what Spagnuolo did in McDermott's lap, right? Like, this is why you're here, and this is 4 playoff games against them, and the Bills have been pretty much gashed in all 4.
Yeah, what Spagnuolo did, you said?
Well, doing things differently, coming up with something.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, Houston held Kansas City down.
They did. They had 212 yards, 212 against Houston. That was it. Their entire offensive
and Travis Kelce had 117 of it, and yesterday he had like 16 or 19 or whatever the hell he had.
I know, like the Bills,
it's incredible.
They did so well against Kelce. I wonder too, is it like they did so much focus on Kelce that other things were open, right? Maybe that's the case. I mean, I think we saw yesterday the Bills have to evaluate their corner position in the offseason. Yeah. Christian Benford, that was really tough to watch what happened to him. There's no doubt. And being on the field, it was obviously like super tough. And once he went out and you see Kyrie Elam come in, you're like, they're going to target him. They're going to come after him. And it got to a point where he's like, I can't be beat here. I have to do something to just give them as much space as possible. And then you're giving Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy room to catch the ball and run. And on the other side, I mean, Russell Douglas is not the same player this year. He has not been that he was the first year he came. I mean, you have Benford, who's been super steady. You do have to obviously think about the concussions, but, going forward, he's going to be the starter. And then I think you really have to evaluate what you have on the other side there, and they're going to have to do something different because what they have on the roster now. And I love Jamarcus Ingram. You guys know that. I think maybe Jamarcus Ingram could fight for playing time. I don't know if he's ready to start in the league, maybe, but that's something you have to evaluate. The point is, though, that like the Bills did a really good job of bottling up all their tight ends, really. I mean, I know they had the one for the 2-point conversion, but they were so good at really kind of defending the middle of the field. They got beat on the perimeter. They got beat on the perimeter all night long. Yeah. And that's something they're going to have to look at. Is that because they were so concentrating in the middle of the field, or is that because of the lack of execution by the corners? I mean, it could be a combination of both, obviously.
I felt like as this season wore on, more and more often, not like the Bills got plays made on them like crazy, but when plays were getting made down the field, I felt like Douglas was often the guy chasing. And some of that could be schematic. Like I think he's on the scene in a mix-up with the safety back in Houston week, whatever that was, week 4, week 5. And then later on, the play against Denver in the playoffs, that's also him, but it's, again, a safety problem. But other plays where he's like the guy in coverage, he just, I've gone from last year at this time, oh my God, I hope his knee heals and they re-sign him, to I got to circle back to like the Kaiir Elam offseason and think about drafting a corner at 30, I think, because they have a need.
Sal has said it too. I would think that that's going to be the number one topic or position guess for the Bills in the first round, corner.
Yeah, because you could make an argument for defensive line, right? I mean, there's no doubt. But I think that they have other than Ed Oliver, and then you generally go free agency. I guess, I mean, you could say they don't defensive tackle Boogie Basham, but really ends. They've done ends, early on in the draft. I think if you find a premium pass rusher, then you get one from the end. But defensive tackle, really, it's been Oliver. Otherwise, it's been free agents. It's Mario Addison's and Jordan Phillips's and Quentin Jefferson's and those players. So that, I mean, who knows? But that could also be made an argument. And yesterday, the edges, the ends, they just
Rousseau had
a
tough night.
He did.
He got trapped inside on maybe 5 or 6 plays where it just, I mean, just very tough.
Oh, there's the wrinkle too. Like, I mean, on offense, here come these plays that you didn't see, and like the quarterback runs from Mahomes looked so easy. I mean, it usually looks easy for Josh Allen. It was really tough for Josh Allen. It's seriously like it was opposite world for the quarterback running yesterday. Yeah. I know Mahomes has his scrambles. I get it. But like Josh Allen and the Bills ran the ball so well. He's such a great runner. And they did such a good job on him, the Chiefs did, or the Bills didn't execute it well enough. And then on the other side, here comes Mahomes on designed runs, just reversing out and rolling just all the way over like a student body right, and he's just into the end zone.
Yeah,
right?
I did not have the form of our demise being Patrick Mahomes rushing touchdowns.
Right. I heard today that it was the 4th designed run they've ever called.
It's unbelievable.
If that's right, I think I heard that right. Sal Capaccio on the Western Hotline. This is very similar to last year. Too much so for me, just thinking about having these conversations all off season now. I mean, this is the last time, the game last year in the playoffs is the last time the Bills lost a game that they led in the fourth quarter. And they did. They went to the fourth quarter last year in the playoffs, up 4, and would lose that game. And, I mean, it felt pretty good, Sal, when they had that lead and then they got a stop. They got that punt. And they might have felt, most of us might have felt like they got it.
This is it. Yeah.
And then you don't got it.
Yeah. Did you think
that was the 4th and 1?
That
right?
was 4th and 1, and the third and I don't know what the distance was, 3rd and 5, 3rd and 6. Man, I thought they got jobbed on the Kincaid spot too. The play that preceded the last failed sneak.
I haven't seen. I didn't see it from live. I was down near the goal line, so I was watching it come at me. I didn't see it until today when I'm seeing a lot of people. I do know that on the broadcast, Chris and Eric mentioned that, like, it looked like he might have got it.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: once they didn't get it, I know. There's two parts going. Okay, well, you can tush push this, and then the other part's like, oh my God, like they have not tush pushed well tonight.
Right.
Like you better get this right.
Play
so
action.
I'm thinking about that too.
Yeah.
When you lose, you always should have done the other thing. But did they ultimately, Sal, just not, as crazy as this might sound to some, lean into Allen enough? Like other off seasons we've talked about. What was last off season's mantra? More off his plate. And, they kind of did that. I mean, what Cook did this year, but they went down, this way. Maybe that with all that went well this year, this game, the whole thing should have been more about Allen than it was.
No, I don't think so. They threw the ball 34 times. He ran 11 times. That's quite a bit. That's about his average for running against the Chiefs, I think, in playoff games. I thought they should have. I'll be honest with you. The very first play of the game, they run what? A designed quarterback run.
Right.
They get 4 yards, right? I was kind of surprised, but I said to myself, you know what? That was a sign to me that they're just going to say, this is Josh Allen's game. We're going to come at you with Josh Allen. He's going to win this game. He's going to take us to the promised land. This is his game. This is his time. Like, I think that was a statement play to start the game. That's what I think that was. And then all of a sudden, bam, he throws 2 of them that hit Chiefs defenders, not Bills players, right? I don't think so, Mike. I would not say they didn't lean into him enough because I don't know what more you could have leaned into him for there. I mean, he threw the ball 34 times. I thought they were running well. I thought they should have gone to the run a little bit sooner with James Cook.
And maybe the kind of runs. I think I heard McGovern talking last night about like what changed, and like he said we figured out duo was going to work, and then we started doing that. So maybe they just got to what was going to work a little later than you would have liked.
That's right. Yeah, they were different concepts, whether it's wide zone, inside zone. Duo is a double team combo, basically, and they figured, and they got to that, and maybe it hadn't worked against the Chiefs in the past, but they tried it a couple times in this game. It started to work, and that's when they said, okay, this is what we're doing, and it started to work. James Cook wound up with 6.5 yards a carry. I mean, he was excellent yesterday.
Sal, that play to tie the game. Huh. I mean, it's a little, to me, reminiscent. I mean, it's a regular season game, so it's maybe a sloppy example, but an amazing play that comes to mind that just gets forgotten in the wind is the Allen to Diggs play to go get the lead in Arizona back in 2020, and then that gets trumped by the Hail Murray, of course. Man, that Cook play, we would be telling grandchildren about that play if they won this game, and instead it's just going to be like, good job. Let's go to Cone King.
Yeah, so that play was a 4th down, correct? It was a 4th down run.
Yeah.
And then later they score on a 4th down pass to Curtis Samuel. And this goes to my point of it wasn't just tush push. It was short yardage all night, guys. They could not move the ball in short yardage. The reason they had 4th and goal is because they had 1st and goal and couldn't move the ball. So they had to go for it on 4th and goal, and it was just pretty emblematic of the entire night.
We haven't asked you anything about today. Okay. What are a couple things that you think maybe were the most important or interesting?
Jay Skursky of the Buffalo News talked to Micah Hyde. He is officially retired. Not that it was a surprise to anybody. Micah Hyde is no longer going to play NFL football. talked to several. Got to talk to quite a few players today. Von Miller said he definitely wants to play. He's ready. Year 15. He said that he wants to be in Buffalo. He said I can't speak for them, but I think they want me back. But he also knows that it's a $23 million cap hit. And there was a question about restructuring the contract, and he said, if you want to do it, if there's a way to do it, there's always a way to do it, right? So he said he talked about that. I thought Osiris Torrance was good on the things that we talked about as well with the the stuff at the end of the game.
Right.
And then really got Dawson Knox. Dawson's always good, just kind of put a perspective on life. He's super disappointed. He's been here through all these losses, obviously. You're not going to love this, guys, because it's going to sound like the Gabe Davis talk from a few years ago. But like Dawson revealed that Dalton Kincaid apparently have been playing really hurt all year. And did I read? I have to see. I wasn't there when he said it. Did he even say torn PCL he was playing through?
That's what I read.
I think he might have.
PCL injury for sure. Torn, I'm not positive, but okay, Mike says yeah.
Yeah, so either, right, so there you go. Here you go. In fact, I'll read from Catherine Fitzgerald. Dalton Kincaid was playing on a torn PCL in one knee with an aggravated other knee, is what he said. Yeah, and like I said, I know that I know that that's kind of what was said about Gabe Davis a couple years ago when he wasn't as productive. Everybody wanted to, and we found out he had an injury. I was told earlier this season that there was a possibility he was playing on an injured knee that they were trying to work through. And that was even on top of when he got hurt in Indianapolis.
Right.
Well, do we know when? I assume McDermott and Bean are going to be talking at some point, either jointly or one after the other. Is that coming up? Do we know yet?
Later this week. We haven't heard official word. Okay. We're guessing midweek, Wednesday, Thursday, maybe. The initial plan, sometime. Well, yes. Well, let me say that. I don't want to go too far in the weeds. So we've heard, but they're still working through that. But
Gotcha.
Yes, we will hear from both of them either separately or together. I'm guessing one or the other sometime later this week.
That's what's next. All right. Thank you, Sal.
You got it, guys.
Good job all season, Sal, by the way. Thank you for always being available to us.
Yes.
Although you do work here and everything. Anyway, Sal Capaccio on the West Shore Hotline, and his appearances are brought to you by New York's only outlet liquor. When you need to stock up, it's the place to buy a case. What's your outlet?
It's back and forth here today between what happened last night and what happens next. 803-0550 Football Monday here on WGR. Thanks for listening. If you missed Eric, or even some or all of Sal, who was just on with us, you can find that on the Odyssey app. Football Mondays brought to you by Northwest Bank. For what's next, get started at northwest.com.
It's all Bills, all
I got to be better for him. I didn't feel like I put him in enough good situations this year, ball placement-wise. Even the one last night across the middle, I left it behind him, allowed 32 to make a play on it. Again, he can sit there and think about that play over and over, but I got to be better for him. That's what it comes down to, and get him, more involved. I know he's been battling throughout the entire year, bumps and bruises, and probably games that he shouldn't have played he was in, but he's a tough sucker, and I got nothing but, again, love for him, how he's approached this year. He's going to be so much better next year. Let his body heal up, and I'm going to be better for him, and I can promise you that.
Josh Allen today on Kincaid. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog at 803-0550 to your calls in a moment. Sal just now brought up Gabe Davis and how Davis had, I think it was an ankle injury early.
That's how I remember it.
His 2 seasons ago.
Mm-hmm.
And then that offseason was, he was actually hurt. And, maybe you get more from him. And that really didn't happen next year.
Yeah, that was coming off of the 13 seconds game where he had 4 touchdowns and 200-plus yards, whatever. He had an incredible game. Blast off time, and he got hurt early in the year, and then that was there all year. Yeah.
And then, 23, he just didn't really produce. Kincaid, he's going to be on the team.
Oh, my God, it's his 3rd year.
So there's not really much to do about it. And Knox, I would assume, is on the team under contract. I think he's probably a dead cap guy that you might want to keep him anyway, but I don't know. I haven't really thought that all the way through yet. I just think maybe with Davis, they felt like they had the guy they needed in him and didn't do something else instead. With the Bills and Kincaid being a tight end, I can't imagine they're hungry for a tight end going into next year.
No, I think that position, despite his struggles, his youth, this injury information that we're hearing today, I would predict and I would even advocate for status quo with tight end. You want to find another Zach Davidson or Quentin Moore, fine. But the 2 dudes that are going to play, I think, are on the team. Unless they decide they want to make a move on Knox because of his contract and it's feasible. I don't know yet if that is or not. That to me would be the only way they go looking for someone who's going to play 40% of the snaps at tight end, is if they made a move on Knox. Kincaid is absolutely on the team.
803-0550 to call in. Here's John next. Hello, John.
Hi, how are you?
Great, thank you.
So I just want to talk about mainly the draft, and I just think that the Bills need to do something about the defense on the front line. Just Ed Oliver just kept getting beat. Rousseau was getting beat. Everybody was just not looking too great. But also just corner. I don't think a contract is a good idea for Rasul Douglas. He hasn't been playing too well this year. I don't know what's going on. I know last year he came in, he was playing great, but this year wasn't looking too good. But if Benford is our only hope, then we got to find somebody else.
Yeah, it's going to end up, I think, feeling a lot like 3 years ago when they drafted Elam in the first round and then, fortunately, backed that up by drafting Benford in the 6th out of Villanova. And Benford has become a very important piece back there. Elam is, it's a lost cause at this point. So that 3 years ago was Tre'Davious White coming off an ACL. You can't know how he's going to recover. We're going to need a guy. And eventually, Bean even said, I heard you all, and they did it. I think that is going to be hard to keep down, as much as we'll be eager for speed. I don't know, spitball in here, like a Xavier Worthy type.
Just a random poll.
Yeah,
just a name
just
from
a
the
guy.
ether.
I just remember from talking about the draft last year that, he's sort of fit a certain profile that appealed to me.
What happened to that guy?
There'll be a case to be made for that. Certainly, playmaker, more help for Allen, but corner, I think, is probably going to end up carrying the day. I don't know. I'm not telling you they're definitely going to do that. It's so early here, but there's a case to be made.
They picked 30th, so they should get the 6th best one.
Of whatever they want to do, almost.
of corner or edge rusher or whatever it is, like the premier positions. I don't know if wide receiver this year sounds like they'd be a bunch picked in the first round like last year. It doesn't sound like that yet. Quarterbacks, too.
Right.
So more linemen.
I saw one draft analyst I follow, forgive me, I did not memorize which account, who you asked me about Jackson Dart a couple of times because I was crushing on him earlier in the year, and I'm not dug in on a firm position on him one way or the other, but one draft analyst like looking through the tape, was posting highlights today, said, I wouldn't be surprised if he sneaks into the first round.
I know. Yes. That was discussed on a little plucky little podcast as well today called ADP Chasing.
All right,
I heard the same thing.
All right.
Tony is next. Hello, Tony.
Hey, guys.
Hey, Tony.
Probably not gonna be a real popular opinion here, but yeah, I mean, since the Bills, basically took away the press credential of the only guy that would challenge him on this, I figure someone's got to do it. Let's talk about Josh a little bit. Look, I don't think that it's really necessarily come from this show or anything like that. This particular narrative, but I'm sure you guys heard, a lot of people talk about the Bills are wasting Josh Allen's prime. And to me, that kind of died yesterday. And I am a long, long way from placing blame on Josh. I hope you don't feel like this is like a thin line, because it's not, okay? But after 2 consecutive years of putting the ball in his hands down 3 with the clock on your side and coming away with, 0 touchdowns, 0 points, 0 wins, it's time for the quarterback to own this spot that we're in a little bit more than I think people care to talk about today.
Tony, I agree with you. I've said it multiple times today, even defending myself against being someone who's making excuses. I think it's really stark that 2 years in a row the same scenario really played itself out, and ahead of time you'd be like, great, sign me up. I think I like my chances. And I think that's going to get harder to sell the next time, because it hasn't happened. And it's not, like you're saying too, like it's not all his fault. Better play call, better recognition by the linemen, whatever. The refs maybe doing their jobs better. Like, there's a lot of things, a lot of factors. But I don't think it should be ignored, nor do I think his struggles in the first half of this game should be ignored. I was big on this last week about Lamar Jackson. Like, everybody defending him, he was such a gamer, he played so great. Mark Andrews dropped a 2-point conversion. Like, Lamar dug them a hole in the first half. Allen did the same thing to an extent. He didn't turn the ball over, but they, 3 and out, 21 points. Like, they needed to keep up. The first half counts. So credit to him and them for getting it together and getting the lead and then tying it again. But he to me was not great yesterday. Great would have been playing a complete game where you just look like you're in command the whole time. And I don't know, for maybe a quarter or more, he looked off.
I don't know exactly where I would time that, but I definitely didn't think it all night. He led them to the lead in the fourth quarter. I don't really disagree with your points. Or Tony, I think the phrasing of the idea that they're wasting him died is really interesting. Because it's also not a game where McDermott's like, we're all just going, see, why did you fake this punt, or why did you kick? There's nothing really like that people tend to latch on to. Really, like, I appreciated, and I liked Sal's response when I asked if they leaned into Allen hard enough, and he said, I think they did. Think about the first play and the running and the statement and all the things that Sal said, and that sounds right. But it's still like running, it wasn't what Jackson did they never caught up, right? The Ravens, but very similar game, 2-point conversions, it failed and close in the end. But they threw the ball down the field.
Yes.
Which they weren't supposed to be able to do, by the way. There are still people who sell you that. They did that against this Bills defense. It's part why I wasn't too optimistic for the Bills defense yesterday, because Mahomes is going to do this. I mean, they've not been able to stop him, and the defense really isn't in shape. And in this game, what it came down to was the heretofore rock-solid guarantee Josh Allen in short yardage plays. They kept going to him running, and it failed. That's new. And I don't feel like I hate them for that because it has been so successful.
Right.
But this team never really got there throwing the ball down the field. I mean, last night, what was it? They went most of the second half without throwing a pass beyond the line of scrimmage?
Yeah.
I mean, in the AFC Championship with Allen as your quarterback, they had a great season. What they did worked, but it always worried me that in the end, they would need him to deliver. And, the coordinator is a part of that, and the personnel. It didn't happen. And that's where I would, put my attention and wonder what the Bills think they need to do differently, if anything, about that. Because I think it's just like last year, where they ran the ball down the stretch all over people and lost to Kansas City, but hey, Patrick Mahomes, take a shower, have a drink. And they're going to run the ball this year. And they did. I mean, they had 6 linemen, Cook for 16 touchdowns. They did. Do you think, again, that they'll take away that it didn't work? And you can't just necessarily bring in a wide receiver one, Did everybody eats work? Sure. But that's what I would have wanted from them last night. I mean, it was already so baked in. Like, they weren't going to be able. They didn't have the guys to do that. And it all has me spiraling a little bit, just thinking about, like, where the blame lies, what will they do, what can they do to the roster, what do they want to do to the roster? Was it not a smashing success this year, how they played and what did people say the last 2 weeks? Oh, well, here's what's different about Buffalo. They can bully you. They bullied Baltimore. They bullied Denver. Those teams stopped the run, not against the Bills. They can do that. They couldn't bully the Chiefs, even when it meant Allen on 1 yard to go plays. They really couldn't do it. And what was plan B?
Right. Yeah, I liked hearing Sal reference that numerous times during our 20-minute conversation, because I know last night that was the thing I felt the most strongly. Like, what happened tonight? They couldn't get a yard when a yard was automatic. It's 4th down. I'm going to go to the John. Like, there's going to be a new set of downs. This is automatic. This is a PAT from the 80s. Like, kick it through. Fine, I'm going to the bathroom. That's what 4th down had become for this team. And last night, it just evaporated on them.
What did it end up? 4 for 6. 6 4th down. I mean, 2 touchdowns. Samuel was a 4th down play, and also
right.
Cook.
Yeah, but the 4th and shorts were where they miss.
5 for 14 on 3rd, including a couple of those as well.
Yep.
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, Football Monday on WGR.
It's all Bills, all day. Buffalo Bills football
Mike Schopp and the Bulldog, welcome back. Here is John next. Hi, John.
Hey, guys. So I just wanted to ask a question. A lot of people say that the Bills' Super Bowl window will always be open if Josh Allen is their quarterback. Do you think the same could be said about Sean McDermott as the head coach, that as long as the Bills have him as their head coach, our Super Bowl window will be open?
If they have Allen, too, I would say it.
Yeah, Allen's the more important piece for the Super Bowl window, in my opinion.
Because, I feel like we've reached a point where we're 0-4 against the Chiefs. I fear that we could have just as good of players as they do, but when it comes down to these key moments or key play calls, they have geniuses in the game of football on the other side, in Spagnuolo and Reed, and we don't. And I just don't think, McDermott, he may be good at building team culture and building a good football team, but at some point, you're not getting the job done. If the Super Bowl is the end goal and you're not getting the job done, then, we got a problem.
Well, this is, of course, a topic. It always is when they lose. And I'd have to say, well, two things. Last year, year before that, I'm sure of it, I would have put it at some point, if I have this season again, I'm also not making a coaching change. Like, yes, the Super Bowl, but it's another division title. It's 2 more playoff wins, and I'm down a field goal with 3 minutes left. Like, I'm taking that and taking my chances with Sean McDermott if that's what, I'm capable of. I do not expect next year, and I'm not this way today, to think, yeah, it's time. But I would have to concede that with each one,
you just can't go on forever.
It's not his job for life, and
Right.
you get a little closer to, is there some way around what's been happening? It's just, to me, so slim a difference. I feel like it's kind of one play. There's the sneaks. I mean, Allen probably even makes it on the one. It's the one play, the last play, where the Chiefs tricked the Bills. And there was also this on defense last night. And that's more it for me with McDermott at this point, that in one of these games, it maybe look like the Chiefs just don't know what's coming on every play, that they can easily maneuver and, get down the field. Because that's last year and this year, and I guess it's 13 seconds, right? Or it's all 4.
And this year you did not have A.J. Klein roaming the middle of the field trying to keep up with Travis Kelce. You had almost all of your guys. You were down Rapp. You got down Benford, and that obviously impacted. But, yeah, no, it's I'm very disappointed in what was done to them on the defensive side of the ball yesterday. I haven't talked as much about it because I feel like it's appropriate to make the point about Allen, because I feel like that's a place a lot of people don't really want to look. Again, not to blame him entirely, but he didn't come through, and that's tough. He has to own at least a part of that and not be, impervious to owning some of the criticism. But that Chief team came into the playoffs having just put up 200-some yards on the Houston Texans. And Travis Kelce was like 117 yards of that. I mean, the Bills shut him down, and Xavier Worthy and Kareem Hunt and Mahomes running. I mean, they rocked the Bills with, I think, some stuff that the Bills simply were not prepared for. And that is stark. Again, it's as stark as Allen not coming through at the end of the game. That you went into a game with a team that offensively was not as potent as they've been, hadn't scored more than 30 points all year long. Picked a fine time to leave me Lucille.
Sorry, enjoyed that.
Just got on a run there.
I enjoyed that.
If it really made sense.
It was 2-12 for the Chiefs at home in the Texans playoff game, and then 368 last night. Bills outgained him by 6. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog back with more Football Monday after sports. This is WGR.
WGR Sports Radio 550 and WGR550.com. This is a Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update.
We are officially on to the offseason for the Buffalo Bills following yesterday's loss in the AFC Championship to the Kansas City Chiefs. And today was locker cleanout. If you missed anything from a number of players who spoke today, including quarterback Josh Allen, you can find all of that audio up at our website, WGR550.com. The Bills also did announce a number of roster moves, and that does include re-signing lineman Ryan Vandemark. And if you missed any of that, we also have pieces up at our website, WGR550.com. But next up for the NFL, it is now just under 2 weeks away from Super Bowl 59. The Chiefs and the Eagles will square off in New Orleans. For the Chiefs, they are going for history. If they win, it will be a third straight Super Bowl title, while for the Eagles, they are going for their second in team history, their first since 2017. And then the Sabres, they're in action tomorrow. They will host Boston, but today they placed forward Nicholas Abe-Cabell on waivers. Abe-Cabell has played in 19 games this season, but just has 2 points to show for it. That's your Paddock Chevrolet Sports Update. Kickoff 2025 of the new Chevy from Paddock. I'm Zach Jones for WGR Sports Radio 550.
It's Mike Schopp.
You might be mocking me or you might be staunchly agreeing with me. I can't tell.
I'm mocking you.
And the Bulldog.
What is Fozzie Bear's role in this production?
On WGR Sports Radio 550.
Welcome back. The Bills have the lead in the fourth quarter last night in Kansas City, but end up losing. They only have the lead in the fourth quarter until the Allen sneak stop. Quote, stop. Kansas City then drives to the lead. The Bills tie it. Chiefs field goal, and then the final series. So it was not for long. It is the first game they've lost when leading in the fourth quarter since last year's playoff game against Kansas City, that they led 24-20 as the fourth quarter began. Kansas City in that game scored right away, second play for the lead, and that was the final. 27-24. The rest of the fourth quarter was scoreless. One thing...
Surprisingly, none of this made me feel any better just now.
Well, I don't know. Was that the goal?
No, the show's purpose is not to make me feel better. Although I would like to feel better. I have felt nauseous since like an hour before this game started, and I still am. I don't think I'm sick. I think I'm still nervous, which is really annoying. I'm a very adult man.
I just had Mike McCarthy. I'm a highly successful football coach.
I said very and then I didn't want to say very old.
No, I was
because I'm not very. I don't feel. I don't project. I don't think it's very old. Anyway,
crossed my mind to say.
I'm really tied up. Like I'm really tangled up over this.
Well, one thing I was going to say that was different about last year, like this show last year, was how the Bills played it on their last chance. And I didn't like it, and a lot of people defended them, and that was part of the conversation that was pretty intense, like what did Allen make the right decisions, the right reads, on those last two passes he had, and then the field goal was missed and they were kind of dead. Is there that from last night? Is there they should have done this?
I mean, you'd like to have your coordinator be able to anticipate what their guy's going to do and be ready for his curveball. And if indeed it was a curveball, I think a few of the players have certainly indicated that they weren't prepared for the look and then the actual play, the blitz coming from where it came from. And so, how much am I prepared to ask Joe Brady or anyone else to know in that situation? But it feels like, unlike in the regular season game when they had what turned out to be the wrong look, the wrong play against the defense that they ended up seeing from Kansas City, Allen just erased it all. He's got the big giant jar of whiteout out and fine, I'm just going to run through everyone and score. And last night that just didn't happen. No, I don't know, man. Like the most. The first there's a play that was it first down, incomplete to Shakir. It looked like a throwaway. You thought it looked like a throwaway. Romo ended up getting two. It looked like a throwaway.
Over the middle.
Over the middle, right. On that play, Kincaid, who initially, I saw a breakdown from Dan Orlovsky this morning about this play specifically. He shows Kincaid sells the idea of a screen at the line of scrimmage. He puts his hands up like, I'm getting the ball, Kincaid. I didn't notice it watching it live as it happened, but he does that. And then Allen drops back. Kincaid just sort of drifts over there, and there's nobody around. I mean, it's not a touchdown, but it's easy yards to get the drive moving in the right direction. Allen thought he saw whatever he saw there, or decided I'm going there and then didn't like it and threw it away, or he thought Shakir was going to keep it. Either way, he misfired.
This is still first down.
And Kincaid was there, and that may be a better choice there. Orlovsky said, I've watched him make this throw all year long. The check down, the check down, the check down. And it's there. Kansas City is not really covering it. They're not respecting it at all. So, I don't know. It might be a modest gain. It might have been a little better than that. I don't know. But maybe you're not in 4th and 5 in the end if you make that throw, because then second down is incomplete. Third down is the little play to Cooper. That's close to being a really good play too. That's a blitz, and that's, I think, maybe a perfect play call for that blitz. But what happens is Spencer Brown is running out there to make some room for Cooper, and he gets upended and falls into Cooper. Cooper's got to kind of clumsily try to get past him, and then someone's got him around the ankles, and that's it. It's a 5-yard gain. That could have been a touchdown if Brown gets out there without stumbling. However, whatever happened, somebody tripped him or he lost his footing. I don't know how, but he fell, and the play kind of – so, but – I mean, I'm trying really hard, admittedly, to find you should have done this, or I'm not even really so much doing you should have done this. Really, the Cooper play is more like you were close to getting a really good play there.
I wonder if Allen was getting annoyed only throwing short on the first down example,
right?
But I think he is throwing the ball away. He wasn't trying to complete the pass. It wasn't open to Shakir on that first down.
Well,
second down play is batted down.
Yeah. That's why I think it's fair to look at the Kincaid open there and say, if you didn't if you end up throwing that away, he wasn't under great duress there. He had time, rather than throwing it away, to just throw a simple little pass in the flat to Kincaid, and that's probably 6-7 yards, if not more, given where the defenders were. Nobody really seemed to be reacting to him being out there. I think once he put his hands up and he didn't get the wide receiver screen, Kansas City went, okay, well, he's dead. His controller's off. And if Allen goes back to him, it could have been something.
Here's Joe with us. Hi, Joe.
Hey, guys. How are you?
Good, Joe. Thank you.
Good. I just don't know what I'm supposed to want at this point. I'm sitting here thinking about this, and if you talk to me from 2000 or 2001, I would find it laughable to not immediately say, let's go back to this and sign up for all the pain, right? But for my entire upbringing, growing up, it was, okay, we had a thing to do, an action step, fire a coach, draft a quarterback, get a new GM. There was a thing. And now I'm just left with this, sense of there's nothing for us to want or to look forward to until we get to January again. And I'm left with this, feeling that the regular season feels meaningless. We got to get back to the playoffs to prove something. And I guess I'm left with the question of, will joy ever return in my life at the moment? And it's a weird spot to be in.
Yeah.
Yes.
I look forward to so much of the Sundays at the Bills, and it's a sense of community not living in Western New York. And it's a weird spot to feel like, well, nothing matters for another 364 days.
Thanks, Joe. Well said. It's a little bit more of that than last year, which was a little bit more of that than the previous year. And it'll sink in, if it hasn't yet, just sort of what they're so being in the Chiefs' shadow. And maybe Kansas City wins another one here. And it's just going to be more, it's what it sounds like. and what it feels like. It's going to be more of, I can't give you my vote emotionally.
And it just gets harder and harder to feel like, and look, this dissipates over time. I think we're in the cycle here, and right now is down. Right now, I'm dwelling on the Chiefs are going to feel inevitable next year, and if you're dealing with inevitability, good luck. I got to get to this place where I can try to right this wrong, not just from last year, but from the year before, and from 2 years before that, and from the year before that too. But I can't do it. Man, that just gets harder and harder every year. I promise I will dig out of this mentality I have right now, but it's just going to be there. It's going to be in the back of my mind. Like, I don't know. Can I do it? Can I scale the mountain?
Well, remember that last week you felt very good that they would.
Yes, I know.
So probably, or at least maybe that comes back.
Yeah. The other part to the caller's overall sentiment, I have felt for a long time, just in all sports, right? When a team out of the Toronto Maple Leafs are a good example of this, right? Stacked roster, super passionate market, haven't won in a long time. They really want it. They look the part, and then they get there like, ugh. And I think the hardest thing to do with a team like that is nothing. Is just go, all right, I think we're good. I'm going to, put a couple of Band-Aids on places and we're going to roll it back out there. That's a hard thing to do because we want usually something to be different, right? The McDermott people will be circling. The wide receiver train will be chugging along, and it'll all be happening. At least in theory. I mean, I don't think anything dramatic is going to happen, and honestly, I don't think anything dramatic is really called for. Personnel, fine. You want to go find a way to acquire Myles Garrett? I'm listening. You want to find a way to trade for a receiver who's on a team that either A, doesn't want to pay him or doesn't want to keep paying him? Okay, I'm listening. But coach, GM, quarterback, coordinators, I'm bringing it all back.
It's day one of this. If morale is low, don't forget the tale of Vitas Gerulaitis.
Go on.
Who had lost 16 consecutive matches to Jimmy Connors. And I'm sure all the talk shows were buzzing about how we know Vitas Gerulaitis could never beat Jimmy Connors. And then he did.
Mm-hmm.
And after the match, he said, nobody beats Vitas Gerulaitis 17 times in a row. One of the all-time great sports quotes.
It's great.
Here's Dan next. Hi, Dan.
Hi, guys. It's a heartbreaker, and you try to wake up the next day and figure out what went wrong, looking for that one thing, coaching, the conspiracy, the refs. But, it's actually quite easy. What went wrong on a very small scale was everything. I mean, we had 3 personal fouls. They had none. Allen almost threw 3 interceptions. Mahomes was laser on. They had 2 kickoff returns that almost went all the way. We had none. Our offensive line, at times, we ran like dogs. At other times, Allen was running for his life. Our secondary, at times, got smoked. Theirs, never. And I don't think it's the sign of someone needs to get fired, traded, or go or whatever. But if you really look at every aspect of this game, you could find a few flaws. If you look at the same aspect in Kansas City, they played flawless. I just really think it was a totality of a few errors on every aspect of the game.
Yeah, I like how you put it. Thanks, Dan. Here's Kevin next. Hi, Kevin.
Hi, Mike. Chris.
Hi.
Love the show.
Thank you.
I just wanted to bring a couple of points really quickly, as quick as I can, on Joe Brady. I'm also curious how much oversight McDermott has. But I feel like almost Joe Brady gets a little bit tight in key sequences. The Baltimore game last week, he throws a screen to Knox, and they don't want to turn the ball over. But what's that line between having a little bit of risk and letting Allen throw the ball down the field and then throwing screens and swings to Ty Johnson? And I also noticed that they went away from James Cook on that fourth down where Allen didn't get it, but I think he got across the 40 there. But James Cook got them there, and then they went away from him, and then they went QB sneak on third down, another QB sneak on fourth down. Didn't get it, but they can get more than a yard. Like, they're allowed to get more than a yard, so I just don't understand why. They're going to QB sneak on third and short. Sure, you can get the first. It's like when they run on second and short too. It's like second and 4. We're gonna get the first down just to make sure you can get more than 4 yards. So I feel like Brady gets a little bit tight, and I wonder how much oversight McDermott has on that. You don't want to turn the ball over, but Allen's turned the ball over in prior years, and they've got to the same point. So it's just like they throw the ball downfield to Matt Collins. He puts it in a bucket 2 times to Matt Collins, and they don't throw the ball down the field really the rest of the game. Like, Cooper doesn't get separation. It's just, in key moments, it's been crazy.
These are really good points, too, Kevin, I think. My friend Davis Maddock, who's a Chiefs fan, his takeaway from the game, or one of them, was, when I saw those Hollins plays, I'm just sitting there going, how do you not do this all the time? You can't do it all the time. But why wouldn't a Chiefs fan have been afraid of Allen? The same way we get afraid of Mahomes. They're comparable enough. And it's been my thing with this offense this year too, is they're a little bit too short. They built it for that. They executed it well. And I think that's one thing about the outcome that I would point to is too short. You counted on Allen to convert those plays, and he didn't. Eric Wood joined us earlier. Football Monday continues. We'll have our chat with Eric after a break. Mike Schopp and the Bulldog here, WGR.
It's all
What's the right first question? How are you? How about that? How are you today?
I'm good. I ended up driving back from Kansas City last night. I had planned on stopping, but after a game like that, your mind's racing, so you just truck it home, and a lot of road time, a lot of windshield time to think about the game and how it unfolded and in the season. So we can unpack all that.
All right. Yeah. Well, there's plenty to unpack. Can we maybe start here, if you'll indulge me? One of my most prominent thoughts is how, and I just said it at the end of last segment again, how last year, Bills with the ball, down 3, in your barn. All right, I love my chances. Let's go. This is what I'm waiting for. I've got the guy that can make this happen, so let's make it happen. And we all know how that ended. And now yesterday, not in my barn, instead back in their place, and very similar. I'm down 3. I've got the arsenal of timeouts. I'm all right. I've got my MVP guy. Let's go. And without, tearing Josh apart, because that would be asinine, is it fair to, wonder, God, can he – I know it's a lot to ask, but, man, it's 2 years in a row. He just has not been able to get them there.
Yeah, and it's frustrating and it's disappointing. And, those drives are the ones at the end you remember. And, it's different moments throughout the game that lead you to that point in the game where you're down at the end. And so, yeah, just couldn't get it done at the end 2 years in a row. And you like your spot. I mean, at the beginning of the season in a transition year, if you would have said, we're going to be at the AFC Championship game, we're going to get the ball back, 3 minutes and 30 seconds, 3 timeouts, we'd feel pretty good about that. And just couldn't get it done in the end. And it's disappointing. And each year that goes by, it's not a wasted year by any means. There's so many great memories. There's so much great that came from this season as far as memories and moments and a potential MVP. But, this is year 7 for Josh Allen. We haven't been able to get to the Super Bowl yet. And I know he's likely got a long career ahead of him. He's incredibly gifted. He's still young, but, oh, man, it's just frustrating. And the way that they built momentum throughout the season, the way the roster was built, the way that they could attack you from so many different angles, the way the run game emerged, especially late in the year and then the playoffs, you just felt really good about the Bills' chances yesterday.
On their last series, I watched 5 minutes from Jeff Schwartz today on just the last play and how he thought there had to be miscommunication between the line and the quarterback, or one or both just didn't see what they should have been able to see on that. How fresh is that play in your mind? Allen sort of running into the corner blitz from his right, and then the heave to Kincaid that still could have been caught, but looked like maybe the Bills or Allen himself should have looked elsewhere.
Yeah, and it's easy to say that now, obviously. And, in the moment when me and Chris were talking about in the break, and I said, all year in those must-have situations, they ran a lot of that orbit motion with Shakir, and it's worked. And either teams rally to Shakir and someone comes open across the middle, or they don't rally to Shakir on that orbit motion, whether he keeps going or he goes back the opposite way. It's just worked time and time again. So they go to it. They go to it out of an empty formation, so you don't have the back there to potentially provide some extra insurance if there is a miscommunication. But I had recorded with Ryan Fitzpatrick today on my Center on Buffalo podcast, and he was talking about from a quarterback's perspective. This was interesting to me that Steve Spagnuolo loves the will free safety blitz. So the will's going to come and the free safety is going to come. But if it's a condensed formation like it was, the Bills were into the boundary and there's a tighter split by the wide receiver, then they'll often convert that to a corner. But it's so hard for a quarterback to see because there's not really indications that corner is going to come on the play. And I heard Connor McGovern talking his post-game in the locker room after the game, talking about how he wishes he would have slid that protection right to provide Josh more protection. They ended up having a guy on the left-hand side who was simply just spying, so we had too many blockers to the left, not enough on the right, and I don't know enough about it to say who was at fault there, but obviously a protection breakdown.
Yeah, I mean, it's a really tough look when you get to it. Osiris Torrance ends up blocking air. And I don't know that David Edwards did much of anything as far as blocking anyone on the play because, all the pressure came from the right side. Torrance thinks the guy in front of him, that guy pivots toward McGovern, and he goes with him, but then McGovern ends up with him, and then Torrance is just sort of like, oh, and then by then the DB is by him, and it's just a jailbreak.
And real quick on that, cornerback blitzes are gutsy calls. If there's a quick built-in beater on the outside there, or Josh makes him pay, we might be having a conversation today where does Spags keep his job? You fire corners like that, it is risky, but give him credit to have the guts to do it in that situation. And maybe you didn't like how the Bills were driving down the field again, and after, they had 2 punts in their first 3 or 4 possessions, and they really got it rolling offensively. So, and then they get stopped on that 4th and 1 in the fourth quarter. But, I guess he said, screw it, let's fire the corner here, and it paid off.
With Eric Wood, we've got to talk about these quarterback sneak plays, Eric. Like 3 times stopped in this game with the quarterback the size of Allen. Can you explain it? Is there a technical aspect of this from a lineman standpoint or from Allen's? We've seen how the Bills almost always go to the left, or Allen almost always goes to the left here. How did the Chiefs stop him 3 times?
Yeah, the one still shot that I saw from above, they had Chris Jones lined up. It looked like offsides, but unless you're touching in those situations, they generally don't call it. Or if someone flinches, before the snap, then they'll call it. But it looked like they had Chris Jones lined up to Connor McGovern's right, really crowding him, if not offsides, and then trying to just shove him to the left to try and clog it up further on the left-hand side. Guys went low, other guys went high. And in those situations where you have the push behind them, there's not really anything else you could do in those situations. You can try and find kind of a different gap that Josh can go through, but give them credit. They stopped or close to stopped him, and the officials called it a stop. And so, Kansas City, I believe, had given up 32 of 32 on their last QB sneak stop attempts, and then they get 3 yesterday. 1 takes points off the board with the 2-point conversion attempt, and the other one stops a drive that the Bills could have extended a lead. So, we were talking on the broadcast. I was down on the field before the game. The field is super hard to get footing with the real short grass and really, kind of a frozen surface below it. I don't know if that affects maybe the push you can get offensively as they're kind of submarining at the line of scrimmage, but they got it done.
How can you answer for us why you wouldn't ever consider – I shouldn't say never consider. I don't know if the Bills considered it, but they certainly didn't do anything with it. Rather than continuing to hammer it to the left like we've seen them do all year long, why not go to the right of McGovern, like over Torrance, between Torrance and Spencer Brown, just for a changeup after the Chiefs had been stuffing you? Is there a reason that my feeble football mind can't grasp for why you wouldn't do that?
It's I don't know exactly either. Generally, when we would teach the sneak, we were either looking at matchups that we could attack. Is there a lighter defensive tackle? Is there a more open gap up there, and then let the quarterback – we're all blocking it the exact same way, kind of everybody's wedging inside on the play, and then let the quarterback find a gap. The Bills always go left, and they were 21 of 22 on the season. So that's just like that's their confidence. And I've thought about this at length as well, and it's a great question. The center starts to play with his right hand between his legs. It's easier to kind of get – a little momentum, I guess, or get more on a guy with your left.
Okay,
so
that makes sense.
Potentially why. Maybe they like, Dion is coming down. He's your most powerful lineman up front, and maybe they like to just kind of go behind 73 in those situations.
Well, Eric, very similar to last year, not an easy team to figure out what to do with or what to fix. We had the whole concept this year where the Bills, everybody eats, all of that. It's so tired at this point. And my hesitation, I never was really on board, but they kept winning and winning, and just it sounded like a love fest. And I just couldn't get to a point where, I assumed it was going to win in the end. Is there somebody good enough as a receiver on this team to, step up and be the guy when it matters, even if teams expect it to be that guy, like somebody who can overcome that. Does this game, for as much success as they had, maybe it doesn't, I don't know, I'm asking you, does this game change your opinion about how it all went, or what you think the Bills might be thinking, or Brandon Beane might be thinking going into next year about this?
No, not necessarily. And, this isn't a copy of the Chiefs model, but, I feel like nowadays, if you have a quarterback like Mahomes or Allen who can elevate those around you, certainly the Bengals drafted a Jamar Chase, they drafted a T. Higgins, great. But going out and paying a guy $30 million to play receiver, I don't know that that's the answer. And maybe it is, but just for me looking at it, you have the number 2 scoring offense in the league, and it wasn't an issue for most of the season. They have a great offensive line. They used Cook extremely well this season. He was a stud again yesterday. He continues to get better and better. But I don't know that that's the answer. Are there guys that you can go out there and find some bargains on, or a late first-round draft pick that provides an added speed or down-the-field element? Sure. I'm all for that. I don't know that going out and paying a guy a ton of money on that side of the ball is the answer. Now, you look at the way the Chiefs are built, and, it's what's impressed me most about their run is that they've just done it in different ways. It was a high-flying offense, and then it was trade Tyreek Hill, get 2 first-round draft picks for him, put both of those, picks into the defense, pay some guys defensively, and build up that side of the ball. And you just assume that Mahomes can get it done with the cast and crew that you give him. And, yes, you have first ballot Hall of Famer, maybe the best receiving tight end of all time, and Travis Kelce, who's now slowing down at this point of his career. He had a great first week of the playoffs. Bills holding him to 2 catches under 20 yards yesterday. But, they draft Worthy at the end of the first round, Juju Smith-Schuster, Hollywood Brown. That's not a cast that you would say they're overwhelmingly better than the Bills guys. It's, they executed better than we did yesterday, and they took advantages of the banged up secondary at times. But, to me, and I don't get paid to do this, I'm pouring assets into the defense, whether that's in our secondary, whether that's up front on the defensive line.
Yeah, I think corner is going to be a lot of talking, almost like it was 3 years ago when they drafted Elam and Benford, because I don't know what they're going to want to do with Douglas, whose contract is up. Elam has to be, I think, done. Benford, I would expect will recover, from what was a very tough scene yesterday. But I think they're going to need a guy, unless they want to re-sign Douglas. And I don't know what that'll cost, but I sort of felt like Eric, as the year went on, more and more, he was like at the scene of the crime on plays. Whether they were all his fault all the time, I can't know because scheme and zone and what, but I just feel like Douglas was so high on him last year. He was one of the guys that got hurt late that we were moaning about, like, oh, we didn't have all our guys and Douglas is playing on one leg. This year felt kind of like a letdown from him.
Yeah, I agree, especially when they got the man-man coverage. I felt like when it was man-to-man, he was often targeted, and he's a ball hawk. He's a great zone corner. He's got tremendous size to set the edge. I think on a smaller deal, he's a guy that you look to bring back and then maybe try and upgrade, but you still have him in there for dime packages or, insurance in case someone gets hurt, or, you feel good about him, and you got to play more zone defense when you get Rasul Douglas, because the top-end speed's just not there, and that's his MO. He had so many takeaways through the first part of his career, you'd assume he would be a $25 million corner. Well, the reason for that is he's not a burner, and when you get man-to-man defense and you have a guy like Worthy or whoever it may be that's going to run a crossing route and there's rub elements to it, you got to have some serious speed to keep up with those guys.
Douglas did not have an interception this season for the Bills after 4 in 9 games last year for them. Well, Eric, I want to ask you something about like what the players do now, but I think I kind of know. You get some time away here, right? Like this is a very sudden and disappointing ending to the guys like Allen and McDermott who've been here for so long. It's got to feel familiar. Would there probably be some sense of, I don't even know right now what the next thing is from them? I think that would seem natural because they've been so close.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, these guys weren't making plans to do anything this week. There was plenty of times where we knew come some part of December that our season was about to end. So, you kind of had plans for right after the season to go back to your hometown or, go on a vacation or what my training schedule is going to look like and all that. Yeah, I would assume it's a lot of shock there because, those guys aren't making plans and assuming they're going to lose that game. And so, it's different for everybody. I was kind of a guy that I like to take a week, maybe 2 off if the season didn't end with a surgery and then get right back into training. I always felt like it was easier to stay in shape than get back in shape. But everyone's different, and guys are wired a different way. Some people need a bunch of time to get away from it to be able to fully then commit to the following season. And so it's different for everybody, but it's heartbreaking. These locker cleanout days are awful. It's no fun saying bye to everybody, knowing that there's going to be a lot of faces that aren't going to be in that locker room again come springtime when you all get back together. So it's not a fun day, and I know you guys have covered the team for a long year, so you've heard plenty of the sentiments over the years.
Yeah, I mean, it just comes like a bus that hits you in a crosswalk that you didn't see coming. I mean, it's like we were talking about it a little bit earlier, Eric. Leaving here last night, I'm driving past 5, 6, 7 bar restaurant places that are all parking lots empty, dark, lights out, closed. Now, it's a Sunday night at 11:30, but juxtapose that with what it would have looked like if the Bills had won that game. I bet there would have been people like swinging from chandeliers in all those places last night.
I know it. Yeah, and it's abrupt end for everybody, and this is such a passionate fan base, and there's other passionate fan bases around the NFL. A team in LA or Miami that loses, people go on with their lives. And, my wife texted me last night that the kids were crying during prayer time before bed, just so upset that the season's over and they were hoping to go to the Super Bowl too. And, they're going to have to listen to their friends at school and whatnot, which led to some fun conversations this morning on how to handle that. But, I mean, myself included, I'm gutted for the team. Yeah. And, there's a lot of close relationships. And, heck, I wanted to go to New Orleans really bad myself. I wanted to call a Super Bowl. I wanted to be a part of it. I wanted to be a part of a Super Bowl parade in Buffalo. I always joke with Brandon Bean that when it happens, I'll just be security for him from the Super Bowl party afterwards all the way through the parade. You can just I'll wear all black if you need me to, but I'll be your security just so I can be along for the ride. But, it just – you're right. It hits you like a ton of bricks. And, I honestly had a lot of optimism going into the game yesterday. I felt like this team was best suited when you go into the game and Rapp's your only player out defensively. You're as healthy as you've been in the postseason. You got a team that, okay, you're going to take away our pass. We can get you with the run. Like, I just felt like this team was equipped to go in there and get a win, and it just didn't happen. And look, give the Chiefs credit. They made a lot of plays. They made life difficult on the Bills. I thought throughout the game it was easier for the Chiefs to move the ball and harder for the Bills. And after a quarter or so, if the Bills won, I almost would have felt like they stole one just based upon the fact how hard it was early on them to move the football offensively. And even, you put up that touchdown before the half, and Josh, you got to throw a perfect ball to Mac Hollins, and he's interfered on the play, so we likely score anyways, but he's got to pull it in one-handed because he's got one arm tied up. And it just felt like it was harder for us to move the ball throughout the game, harder for us to get stops. And because of that, give them credit. They fought their tails off to get back in that game and have a lead in the fourth quarter. But ultimately, with a team like that, and you kind of hear it in the voices of the guys and Josh talking today, it's almost like they knew, like, we need to go in and take that. We needed a 2-score lead. Mm-hmm. We needed to take it to them. Because you give Mahomes and that crew the ball at the end of the game, or if it comes down to the wire, they're really tough to beat.
I hope your kids are all right. What is Louisville? A Bengals town mostly? There's got to be some Chiefs or some Colts.
Yeah, we don't have a team here, so there's a ton of Bengals fans, and then you also have people that just claim random teams just because they can, because they don't have a team here. But Dallas. It's amazing how many. But just through kind of our affiliations, people I've brought to games over the years, friends of mine, the fact that the Bills are cool, Josh Allen's exciting as it gets in the NFL. It's amazing how many A, Bills fans there are here, and B, how many, you get a spirit day at school and you'll have 10 Josh Allen jerseys, or, my son likes to, show off that he's got a Kincaid jersey or a James Cook, something different.
Yes,
but,
yes. Boy after my own heart.
Yeah, because he's he's a real fan, And so,
oh, you're going to be a real fan. You got to get your kid a McGovern jersey. Then come on, get him the current center of the team jersey, Eric.
Yeah, I recommend. I think last year to him, and I can't remember who he got, but I mean this little man, he's got Josh Allen's high school Fireball jersey. So
nice.
It's hard. It's really hard for me to deny him when he wants something like that. You work your tail off to financially be able to provide that. I know how much I wanted jerseys when I was a kid, and my parents would give me some. I'm not acting like I was completely deprived, but when you have the resources to do it, it's really hard for me to turn those down.
My wife and son were in Louisville yesterday, or for the weekend, and I texted you a couple pictures. The bourbon, that got to be from. It's not bourbon if it's not from Kentucky. And my wife found a place where they had a menu. Everything's locally. Angel's Envy, I guess the distillery is right in Louisville, maybe.
Yep.
So they enjoyed it. They enjoyed the people, my wife said.
Good, yeah. Louisville reminds me, it's actually a similar size to Buffalo as well, but just good people. You don't get a ton of egos. People work hard, friendly. It's similar.
Eric, thank you again for today and all season. Get a break, and we'll catch up sometime in the off season here, I'm sure.
Yeah, sounds good. Looking forward to it. I know I texted you last night, but you guys got me through part of my drive. I appreciate that. It was you guys were doing when you guys were cutting off callers. You actually had me laughing out loud. I didn't think I was in a mood to laugh last night, but when I think it was his name might have been Neil, and you're like, all right, well, you got 60 seconds. Come on, and he's like, well, I just didn't think it was right how you cut those callers off. Like, all right, you're done now too.
I mean, it's precious time on that show. We can't have any sort of nobody tells us the rules, right? Nobody tells us the rules. Okay, right. We don't have to be right, but we get to decide. Thanks, Eric. Enjoy your off season here, and we'll talk again.
Yeah, for sure. You guys too. Thanks.
All right.